welcome to the 435th episode of the Random Podcast from Heck. This is a podcast about random things in the world of entertainment. I'm totally messing this up. Happy New Year. It includes movies, TV shows, and comic books. It's been a long week. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, all that stuff. Happy New Year's coming up. Depending on when you listen to this. I don't know when you're listening to this, so hopefully you are finding time to listen. I know you're spending time with... It's been busy. It's been crazy. But I am determined to make this show happen every single week. So welcome. What do we have this week? This week, the movie feature is The Housemaid, so you can hear all about that. And I do recommend you should check that out. I'll say it right now. I'm going to say it again. I did listen to the audiobook, and it's something. So you should definitely look into that. We have the return of Stranger Things. Stranger Things is back with the final batch of episodes for season 5. So this is it. No more, right? We'll see if they actually end it forever. Figure out some way to do something, but. As usual, I'm only going to do one episode. I'm going to do one episode a week for the next, 4 weeks, just to trickle it. It's because of time, and I think it makes it more interesting, this way, because there's definitely cliffhangers. So and since this is it, do you want to just blow through it and then that's it, no more? It's like I want to make it last, and I have no choice because I don't have time to watch all episodes at once. But we have that. We do have the season finale of Adventure Time Fionna and Cake. I hope it's a season finale. I hope we get more. I hope it's not the series finale, because I've been saying it. This season it's been crazy. It's been so amazing. So you have that. We have the penultimate episode of Pluribus. The finale is out now, and even though it was released a little earlier, I still don't have time to watch it. So it's like my sister-in-law's mother-in-law. She's like, "Did you watch it?" She asked me a couple times. She's like, "Did you watch it?" I was like, "No, I haven't had a chance." Like, don't say. Luckily, she didn't say anything. But it's always cool when you in IRL in real life, you talk to people who are who are watching the same shows that you're watching, and that. Otherwise, it's just me right now talking to you. And then we have Fallout season 2, and I debated as I was watching, because right now as I record this, 2 episodes are out. I'm a week behind because I didn't get to it when the first episode dropped, but as I mentioned probably what was going to happen, and it kind of did happen because of the holidays and spending time going here and going there and all this. I didn't get a chance to watch both. So I'm hoping the next episode at 436, I'll be able to do episode 202 and 203. Yeah, so we'll see about that. And then, is that it? I feel like there's something else. So Housemaid, Stranger Things, Adventure Time, Fallout, Pluribus, comics, and news. Not a whole lot of news, as you could expect, because normally with the holidays, not much happens. And I may have missed stuff, but I kind of, looked around and didn't see much. The main thing is there's Avengers teasers. So the second one came out, which I haven't seen it because I'm not going to go see Avatar again. But I did see, it's leaked online. And I'm not going to, I don't want to watch, even if it is leaked online. One, is it going to be, I don't want to see a crap copy of it. And 2, I don't really want to support anyone, whatever, leaking it. What I did notice this past week is Marvel did post the first teaser with Captain America, with Steve Rogers. And so we talked about that already. And what I'm seeing in the comments, some people are like, oh, they're posting it because everyone's leaking it already. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I would imagine this coming week we'll probably see the second teaser, posted online, because there's no way, while Disney may want to use this as maybe a tactic or as a whatever friendly thing for James Cameron's, like, hey, go see the movie and you can watch, the teaser trailer. It's the same company, even though it's Marvel, it's still Disney. It's all, corporate entity, whatever, mothership. So of course they want to try to encourage people, and it makes it a little fun and whatever. But at the same time, they're not going to spend money, whatever, producing, editing these trailers, and then out of the potential that people aren't necessarily going to see it, because Marvel fans and Avatar fans, there's going to be some overlap, but not necessarily completely. And realistically, who's going to see Avatar? I mean, maybe, I don't know if people will. There's been instances where people would do multiple showings. I don't know if people are going to see Avatar multiple times, especially when it's 3 hours and 15 minutes. If it was shorter, maybe, but we'll see about that. So the second one is supposed to feature Thor, and I'm going, like I think I was saying, I'm going to assume it will come out online this week, so you'll be able to see it. Now, one thing that I've heard, I haven't read any like spoiler descriptions or anything like that, but I did see like an image. So people are saying that kid, is the kid's name Love? I don't remember if that's because I haven't seen Love and Thunder. Maybe is that why the movie's called Love and Thunder? That would make sense. I don't remember if that little kid at the end is supposed to be back, and that makes sense because what has Thor been doing since then? We haven't seen that. While people may not be super, I don't know. I saw one article was like, "Oh, hated Marvel MCU character going to be return or something like that." Honestly, I don't remember everyone saying that they hated the character. I don't remember anyone just even talking about the character. So I don't know. There's always these articles where like this and that. Like I saw another one like fans like the second teaser more than the first. That's like, okay, that's BS. For you to say, calm down, Tony. For you to say that the first teaser of Doomsday teaser was bad because it was Chris Evans, and that's an insult to Anthony Mack. That is such garbage talk. That is such bull. Just because you have Chris Evans, I already said this last week, just because Chris Evans is back and if he's back as Captain America does not mean Anthony Mackie is not going to be Captain America. You have both characters as Captain America in the comics, and one does not take away from the other. It's just like, and I said this last week, just like you have Peter Parker and you have Miles Morales, both of them are Spider-Man. I can't imagine people being not happy that Chris Evans is back. Because it's like, oh, bring him back. Oh no, you brought him back. It's like, no, it's just stupid. So Thor is supposed to be back in this one. I don't know. We'll see that. And then there's been some buzz about the third one, because I thought the third one was supposed to be about, was supposed to be Robert Downey Jr. Because, you got Chris Evans, you got Chris Hemsworth, you got Robert, you got the main, the big three, because, you're not going to have Scarlett Johansson. You're not going to have Jeremy Renner, because I don't think he's in it. And I don't know if Hulk is in it, but we'll see. So there's been some rumblings about the third one. I haven't read it. I thought it was supposed to be about Doctor Doom or Tony Stark, or I don't even know. But we'll see. And then I don't even know what the fourth one is. So we have that to look forward to. And like I said, I'm going to imagine that they will appear online. So we shall see. More Avengers news, sort of, not really. More Marvel news. Simu Liu, he said that he won't get A-list roles in Hollywood because he's not white. And I don't know. I really don't know what I think about that. Part of me, maybe a small part of me might agree, but I don't think that's necessarily 100%. I mean, I'm sure Hollywood is racist, and it's hard to say when you look at most of the movies are white people. And it doesn't necessarily mean that the audience is all white. Because, back in the day when you had comics, it was probably mostly white people reading comics, white boys reading comics. And so all, characters were white people. But, that has changed so much since. And I don't know, is Hollywood still only seeking white actors? I I don't. I think the reason why I'm kind of stumbling over this is I don't always really pay attention to that. As a Latino myself, I don't really like focus on that. I never really look at like, oh, there's no Latinos, or whatever this. But when you look at like who are the big stars, the first, like, you got Tom Cruise. Who else is there? Leonardo DiCaprio. But wasn't like Al Pacino like a big actor? Is he? Now, see, this is where I don't really pay. Is he white? If he's Italian, he's white, but he's not. I guess you would say he's still white. What is your definition? What is the Hollywood definition of white? I don't know. Okay, I think what I'm starting to think of it like Andy Garcia. So Al Pacino is Italian American, primarily of Sicilian descent, with both of his parents originating from Sicily, Italy. So he's Italian, but you see, is that this is like such a stupid. There's no news, by the way. So we're talking about what is the definition of white and not white. I'm trying to think who is a non-white, like A-list, a quote unquote A-list actor. I don't even know who you would say. I think about Idris Elba. Is he considered A-list? I don't know if does Hollywood consider him A-list. This is like the stupidest conversation I've had. But I mean, I don't want to. I mean, I shouldn't say it's stupid because race is a thing. It is a factor. But going back to Simu Liu, and for a long time there's always been like Asian actors can't get lead roles or whatever. He was a Ken in Barbie. Is that a victory or not? I mean, because you have different ethnicity Kens, even though most of the Kens are white. I don't know. But the other thing, because Simu Lee, he was in that movie with Woody Harrelson. I forget what it was called, the water movie where they went diving. I mean, because that right there, it did not matter the role, the ethnicity, not the role, the ethnicity didn't matter. But the other thing. I'm trying to think, like, how good of an actor is Simu Liu? I mean, I'm not knocking it. He is a good actor, and I just don't know. It's one thing that I hate this topic. It's one thing if like Hollywood is specifically saying, we want just a white actor, or we want, and maybe they're not putting it on the call sheets. And I have talked about before where there have been call sheets, like for Riverdale. I always use that as an example where they were specifically casting different ethnicities. And so, is that a bad thing or is that a good thing? I always say, and this is probably not going to be the case, they should always cast whoever the best person is, whoever's most talented. Although I will say, if you are going to make a movie about Spider-Man, it should be a white character, or white actor. So I don't know. And I did see people, in response to seemingly saying this, they're like, dude, you were cast because you were Asian. You're cast as Shang-Chi. And then there's also the argument. It's not a really strong argument, but he was in a Marvel movie. It didn't did it skyrocket his career? I mean, I may have seen him in other stuff before, but I never paid attention. I never noticed whatever. I have seen him in stuff since then. I don't know. Was he in Barbie because he was Shang-Chi? Did that make any difference or not? I don't know if that boosts his gets his foot in more doors. Because when you think about it, how many actors must, try to audition for things, and I don't even know how the game works. Your agent has to get you the audition, so it's not like, I mean, unless it's a situation where, sure, we'll cast, we're going to audition hundreds of people, and then I would not want that job to try to go through all that. So I really don't know what the answer is, and this is like the longest talk, but Shang-Chi is getting a new costume in Doomsday, so we have that to look forward to. It's unfortunate. I don't know what the answer is. would want everyone to be happy. It should always be about who the best actors, and I don't know what the answer is, and I don't know. I feel like Hollywood might be kind of racist. I don't know. At the same time, if you have someone that has an amazing actor, I mean, would they really like turn them down and say, sorry, we're going to go with this subpar actor just because they're white? Maybe. I don't know. I mean, it's a sucky situation. And I don't know what the answer is. But we'll have to see. The thing about Simu Liu, and I don't know. I mean, I've never met the guy. I don't know, but I know he is outspoken, and maybe he should be, maybe he needs to be, because other people won't speak up. But I feel like he was complaining, for the longest time. He's like, yeah, I don't know about Shang-Chi too. I don't know. I haven't heard anything. And it's almost like, he was being angry about it, which he should be, because, of course he wants to do more. But at the same time, is there a huge demand for Shang-Chi 2? I did not love the first movie because of all the dragons and the arrows and this other world. And I mean, and to be honest, it's not like he was like my most favorite character. It's just, I mean, that's just the reality of it. So I don't know. Oh, did I mention? Maybe I was talking about Richard Madden. So he's a white dude. He was in Eternals. It's not like being in a Marvel movie hasn't opened doors for him. Now you could maybe argue like, well, Eternals wasn't as successful as Shang-Chi was. I mean, I think Shang-Chi was successful. I mean, I don't remember what the box office was or the ratings or anything. But I don't think necessarily Marvel is being racist by not, fast tracking a Shang-Chi 2. I don't know if, I mean, Marvel's also in a situation where they've pulled back on a lot of projects. They're limited is what they're doing. They've made him an Avenger, which I felt that was like fast tracking his character, where he's on one adventure and all of a sudden he's going to join the Avengers. So I feel like we need more backstory on that. So there you go, new costume for Shang-Chi, and that's pretty much like, that's almost like all the news. Spaceball 2 has wrapped, apparently. I've heard like almost nothing about that, so I don't know. I'm kind of excited for it. I enjoyed original Spaceballs when it came out because I thought it was funny, and I love Star Wars, and who doesn't want a Star Wars spoof? I hope it's good. We'll have to see, because it's been so long. So I'm really curious what they're going to do with this. And I've heard like nothing of like story elements, and I kind of want to keep it that way. So we'll see. Anaconda. I feel like I shouldn't be mentioning this. Is this really news? I'm not. I don't plan on seeing it. Most likely. Rotten Tomatoes score. It's at a 51% from critics. I feel like it was a lot lower when it first, like right the opening weekend. I think it's gone up since then. So it's a 51% from the critics. 51% of the critics gave it a favorable review, whatever, and 79% of the audience enjoyed it. So you have that. And then just the last thing I want to mention is so Taylor Swift, because I feel like I do mention Taylor Swift. I feel like I don't talk about Taylor Swift enough, and I'm sure. And this is the thing: like some people just want to like hate on her any chance they get. She's been donating lots of money lately. She's been making like $1 million donations. Like she did like a Feeding America. She donated $1 million, and people are like, oh, only $1 million. She's a billionaire. She should be able to pay. She should pay more or whatever. And what people don't realize is, I feel like people should know it by now. Every single city from the Eras Tour, she has donated like so much money, like to feed like 500,000 people for like a year or something like that, some crazy amount. And she donated like $1 million to American Heart Association because like her father, I think I don't know if he had heart surgery or something like that. earlier, I think it was like $5 million is like some hurricane relief earlier in the year. She donated money to like some music programs and stuff like that. So she's doing all this stuff, and then every time I see like these posts come up on Instagram or whatever, like when entertainment sites pick up on it, and people are like, oh, she's just doing it for PR. It's like, not really. I mean, she is not out there promoting this. This is all from the people who are like, thanks Taylor Swift for your kind, your generous donation. It means a lot, and of course you're gonna be thankful. And then some people are like, well, she could always ask to do anonymously. The check still has to come, the check has her name on it, so you have that. But it could also be the fact is by them using her name, maybe it's a good way for these organizations to be like, hey, all you other rich people, look what Taylor Swift is doing. You could help out too. So it's crazy that when I've been seeing these posts come up, I keep seeing people complaining that she's not doing more when she does a lot, but she doesn't announce it. And some people are like, oh, it's a tax write-off. And then I saw some people saying, it's like, no, she's paying way more by donating like $1 million than what she would have to pay taxes on it or something like that. So that doesn't really make sense. She's doing all this stuff. She's always been kind. I think I mentioned like the bonus day with everyone on the Eras tour. She's and it's not like just one time. So I just don't understand it. And what I always say, like, how much are you donating? And because they're like, she's not giving any of her wealth or not even a big percentage or stuff like that. But all these people complaining, do they donate anything? Like, I don't want to get into it myself, but we make some contribution, stuff like that. I don't know what percent of my salary it is, but it's like it's not like I'm a millionaire or anything. It's just it's crazy how people. It's like it's never good enough. There's always something. The other thing, like if she is a billionaire, it's not like she has like her bank statements like you have $1 billion or you have whatever $1 billion in your bank. A lot of it is like her worth, like how much is her music worth? There's stuff like that. So it's not like, what do they say, liquid assets? I don't even know what I'm talking about now. So it's just crazy. But I just think people should just be happy. Like she's actually doing stuff. She's not doing it for the attention. But there's just so many people that are just so negative about everything. And I just don't understand that. It's just, just be happy that people are being helped. So that's it. There's no more news. This has been such a messed up news segment. And isn't this is like the last news segment of the year. So hopefully next year will be better. That is the news for the week. With comic books, it was kind of a weird week for comics. There were worse things. I don't know if I read everything, even though there wasn't a lot. So let's see. At Image, there was the Rockefellers, I believe, came out. So I read that issue 11, and it's pretty crazy. So you should be reading it. Peter Tomasi, Francis Manapul. You got this family in the future. They're like. They're hiding, they're running, and they went into the past. They're being hunted. I don't want to give away too, because I feel like just like the details, the specifics, like who is like hot on their heels. I feel like that's a big deal. And while it may not be like cutting edge spoilers or anything like that, but if you're going to pick up the trades and start reading it, it's like I don't want to spoil that part for you. But there's some crazy stuff happening. Yeah, things really come to head in this issue, and it's almost like, okay, is this the end? Like, where what's going to happen here? And decisions are made, and we get like a pretty massive cliffhanger. It's just like, holy crap, what's going to happen? And apparently, I think if I remember correctly, we're going to have to wait 2 months for the conclusion, because I think the next issue is like a one shot, like holiday or like winter, not holiday because the holiday is like over, like a winter special or something like that. So it might be like a flashback like before what's happening now. but it's pretty crazy. It's really good. So definitely you should be checking out if you haven't been for whatever reason. Then there's Sisterhood, a Hyde Street. This is a Hyde Street story, and this has been. It hasn't been like my favorite. I mean, to be honest with you, it's been weird. It's been pretty heavy. Basically, it started off. I feel like I don't know if this needed to be like a 5-part or 5-issue story. It could continue, in some way. They could definitely do that. But basically, it happened. What happened is there was a girl went trying to get into a sorority. Something goes wrong and she ends up dying, but her spirit sort of lives on and kind of doesn't she starts talking to her best friend, and then she ends up kind of possessing her best friend, and she's trying to get revenge using her best friend as a vessel. And that's where things get really messy and bad, because she's doing all these horrible things, but it's okay, you're trying to get revenge, your spirit is trying to get revenge, but you're putting your friend, who is still alive, in this horrible situation that they're not going to be able to get out of. You're making them commit these crimes. And so things just escalate more and more. And so, I'm not sure how I really feel about that. I believe, I don't have the list in front of me. I think G.I. Joe came out. I'm starting to get behind on G.I. Joe. I keep missing when they come out. But I think Real American Hero came out, and I realized still don't think I read. Maybe at the end I can come back to it if I get a chance, because I think I still haven't read. I don't know if it was J. Joe 15 or something like that. There was also Gotcha Man 15. Maybe that's why I'm thinking 15. So this is Sam Humphries. I think it's Chris Batista doing the art. I could be wrong about that. But this is continuing the story where the Gotchaman, the Science Ninja team, they're going up against the Blackbirds, who used to be trainees for the Science Ninja team, but they were taken by Galactor and basically brainwashed and enhanced. They got cybernetics enhancements or whatever, all this stuff, in order to be evil Gotchamen, basically. And because they've been brainwashed, they're all, most of them are we were second fiddle, we were insulted and no respect and all this stuff like that. But then one person was no, this is not right, and then they were killed, supposedly. And I'm just gonna say supposedly and leave it at that. So they're finally confronting and fighting, and when Gotchaman finds out that these are their former kind of work, not really teammates, but they train together and stuff like that, and they're we're not your sidekicks and all this like that, but then Gotchaman starts to realize oh, you're enhanced, and they're well, wait, where's Marcus at? And they're he was going up against Galactor, and he's not here, and they're wait, is he dead? What's going on? And just some crazy things happen. But then we get a new character. Some armored person comes calling themselves Raven, starts coming in and stuff like that. So we got a little mystery going on here. And I have an idea just from reading the series. I don't know if it's an obvious theory, or and maybe it's meant to be obvious, but it's really not. So we'll have to see what happens. At Marvel had a late week. They had 1776 number 2. So this is where Morgan Le Fay is trying to change history. So some heroes are going back in time, and it's kind of interesting seeing they're basically messing with time, and that's the main thing that sticks out to me is how are you gonna explain this? Because at one point, Steve Rogers and Peter Parker they get captured, and they're who are these people? And they're put the prisoners in a tent, and then when it was Benedict Arnold and someone else. Was it Benedict Arnold? Was that his name? When they go in the tent, it's they're in sort of now I don't remember if it was their regular costumes or there's some little twist to it. And it's how you can explain that? Tony Stark goes and talks to Ben Franklin. and then kind of like reveals some. Ben Franklin's like, oh, you're from the future, right? And he's like, I've traveled the world. It's like I know like every like accent or dialect, and I've never heard speak like yours, and how fast you speak with it. So it's like I think he's basically saying you're so comfortable, used to it, so it's not like it's a new thing or you're whatever. So there's definitely repercussions that how do you like go around that? And yeah, so it's I'm liking this more than I thought I would because it's the old timey stuff, and I'm intrigued with this. Amazing Spider-Man 18. So this is the Earth chapter of Amazing Spider-Man because we're alternating. Spider-Man's out in space, long story, and on Earth, I'm going to say it now. So we have Norman Osborn. Spoilers, right? But it's no secret. Norman maybe that is a spoiler. But it's too late. Norman Osborn has been portraying. He's been going around as Spider-Man, and the rest of the Spider family, when they found out, because he basically told them, they're like, you can't do, you got to stop that, whatever. But it's like he kind of can't stop it now. It's like he's feeling this desire, and it's interesting because he's starting to understand, like Spider-Man. He puts his life on the line. It's like he puts on a back burner. He's doing all this stuff, and he's starting to like feel the need, like he needs this, and part of it is Norman has a lot of guilt, and he wants to redeem himself, so he's feeling like he needs to do this, and so forth. There's going to be some chaos with the work front for Peter Parker because his friend, his former like childhood friend, and they're working on this experiment, and Peter's doing like one aspect of it, and this other guy's doing this other part, and it's like ready to test, but he's like, well, I'm just gonna and the boss is like, no, you'll do this when Peter is here, and he's like, I'm just gonna do it now, and then something's gonna happen there. But you can see on the cover, I forgot what was her name, Goblin, the Queen Goblin, and then is it obvious who this other person is on the cover? Because at first I was like, wait, who is that? But there's something that's going on where I'll just say someone's like hunting goblins as well. So there's definitely some stuff happening here. Then we got some Age of Revelation stuff that I'm not reading, and I will admit, part of me is I'm like, oh man, what am I missing out on? A large part of me is like, absolutely nothing, Tony. But I find it hard to believe that Marvel is just putting out all these stories and they're going to have zero impact. Maybe they will. I don't know. So we got Cloak or Dagger number 3. We have Expatriate X-Men number 3. Then there was Marvel Winter Break Special. I don't really I don't get these issues. I don't read these issues because it's almost like, when they started doing like the swimsuit issues. In the beginning, I remember when it first happened, I don't know if it was the 90s or whatever. It's like, oh, what's this? Sports Illustrated Marvel Comics? It just seems wrong. I don't know. It seems crazy. I know there is a story here, but yeah, I'm not going to read. And I think I heard, I haven't checked that, but I think, I could be wrong. I think Gwenpool might even be in that issue. And, I love Gwenpool. I'm not going to read that. Spider-Man 94. I wasn't sure if I read, this is issue 4. I couldn't remember if I read issue 3, but I think I did. Maybe. I'm pretty sure I did. Yeah, because one of the things, we have Kane, and Kane is like confronting Mary Jane because he's like, what's going on? He's like, why? He's feeling like, he has like feelings for Mary Jane or for wanting to protect or whatever, and that's because he's a clone of Peter, and he's like not really sure like what's going on. But then we also have Spider-Man and Kraven, which is interesting because Kraven's actually like, I'm not your enemy now, and stuff like that. And there's some reasons why. And the big baddie here is, which is weird. I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on? So we have Ezekiel Sims, I think is what he's going on. Is that his name? I don't remember that. And we have Morlun. And I think that there's like a slight twist to that. They're saying Morlun created Cain because he's like calling him father, and I'm like, what? I'm not loving this series. It feels weird. I don't know what it is because when I first heard it, I was like, oh cool, they're continuing the animated series, but it just and maybe it's like I need to watch the last season of the show or whatever, but it's like I feel like I was like it feels so off, like and I don't know, yeah, if that's really the case or not. Star Wars #8, I feel like I think I've been like kind of missing some issues or just because of time or something like that. But as I was reading this, part of it is the new alliance is trying to establish things. They're dealing with a lot of like pushback, and there's other people who are still trying to do things for themselves and get their own piece of the pie or whatever. And there's just like some characters I was like, I don't know who these people are, these names, and I don't know if some of them are like brand new to this volume or if they've been in other stuff that I've just like missed out on. And I don't know. It's just there's some cool parts, but I'm not like super excited because I don't know who all these characters are. So, but yeah, I mean, but you look at that cover. That I will say that cover kind of reminded me of Amazing Spider-Man, the way back when he's trapped. I forgot what the tagline is. When he was underwater in Doc Ock's master planner secret base, kind of reminds me of that. But yeah, so I don't know. Then we have Undeadpool. Not reading that. The Will of Doom, #1. When I first heard this, I was like, "What? Doctor Doom's will? Like this is weird." So you look at that cover. There's a big red hand. So I was like, "Oh, we got Thunderbolt Ross." Okay, he definitely has a beef against Doom because his series he was a prisoner for Doom for the longest time. I stopped reading that series because I just started losing. I was losing interest, but he's back. He's been picked up by the government, the U.S. government, and they're not super happy with some of the stuff that he's done. But it's part of it is like, well, he was a prisoner, but he like made one decision and that they're not happy about, and there's could be like some repercussions over that. The main thing is what's in Doctor Doom's will, and I don't want to I don't want to spoil that, and I don't know if it's common sense or whatever. Part of me, one thing I'd be like, well, I will spoil this. There's no mention of Kristoff, and I don't know where Kristoff is. There was was it Superior Avengers or no? I forget what they were called, where Doctor Doom had his own Avengers team in, and Kristoff was there. I think it was regular Kristoff. I don't know if it was alternate Kristoff, because there's some alternate other characters. So, I don't know. But yeah, there's a big thing here, and yeah, so it's definitely we're going to see some repercussions from this. Then we had X-Avengers, which I didn't read that. I feel like there was something else, another one of those X-Men books that like it all ends here. I thought I saw that. Maybe that's coming out next week. But that was it for Marvel. At DC Comics, I should mention I did read Racer X. I think it was issue 4 that came out last week. This is from Mad Cave, and it's the same thing. I mean, I enjoyed it. There's a lot of cool moments, like you see when because Racer X, he wanted to be a racer, but Pops didn't want him to, because it's too dangerous. He wants him to work on the cars. That's basically what Pops does. And at one point, Racer X he ends up sneaking out and racing with someone else, and he's like, what would Pops find out? And the funny thing, I feel like I'm giving away too much now, but Speed is a kid, and he's hiding in the trunk, just like Spritle does. At one point, like when Pops does find out, he's like, or Rex is like, well, what would you do if I was a racer? And Pops says something like, well, what do you think? How would it affect me or your mom? Type of thing, because it's just you're putting your life on the line or whatever. It cuts back because we've had this race that's been going on, and Speed has become a target because he's moving up in the circuit and all this stuff. And these races are insane. They're like so insanely. It's like it's okay to try to kill each other, It's crazy. Speed's brakes have been tampered with, so he's driving with no brakes, and of course it's like on some dangerous course, in the mountains or whatever, and twists and turns. And so, it comes to a matter of Rex is in the race, but he's also trying to protect his brother. This is what we've been seeing, almost like every time there's been an appearance of Rex, he's mainly focused on trying to help Speed. He's been helping, he's been kind of making it or helping Speed to win, and that's how Speed is moving up. So it's like, well, isn't Rex a good racer? Because he's not winning any races. Is he going in other races and winning, or is he just like not winning anything? And this is kind of where the series, it's like, what are you going to do with Rex? You need to mix it up a little bit. I'm so immensely thankful that we have a Speed Racer and a Rex Racer comic. I mean, I adore these characters. They mean so much to me. And I'm so glad that we have these comics with them. But I feel like something has to change. And it almost felt like this could have been the last Racer X. I mean, maybe it was just intended to be a 4-issue miniseries, because then you could collect in a trade. It's a complete story and everything. But I feel like that there's so much more that can be done, where he touch into the past, like we've seen in the original anime, where he's like a secret agent, and we kind of saw that on the movie. There's a reason why he had to fake his death. There's a reason why he did all that, reconstruct the surgery or whatever. But make it where he's like a secret agent type of thing, and he's using the race as a reason to be in the country. He can go there as Racer X or whatever, but then also, when the race isn't happening, he can do whatever international spy ring duties, missions he has to go on, and just make it more about just the racing. I know that's a huge part of who these characters are, but just mix it up a little bit. And I feel like this is way too long of I'm sitting back just talking about Speed Racer and Racer X, and I could keep doing that, but but yeah, support the comic. I mean, like I said, Mad Cave's doing some great stuff with them. Okay, back to DC, or starting with DC. Absolute Superman number 14 came out. I can't remember the last time I've read Absolute Superman. I stopped reading it. What I should mention, I saw a post, and I don't know how accurate it is, that like the Absolute comics have sold, I don't remember, like maybe like 1 million copies, or I don't know if it was multiple millions. And that's, I'm assuming, like everything total. I really don't know. I haven't looked at the sales. I don't even know where you would look at sales now, because it used to be you would get the information from Diamond, but Diamond, I keep seeing like conflicting things, like Diamond is bankrupt, or they're out of business, and then they're back, and then they're not, and because I used to, when I would do this comic recap part, I would just look at Previews World, with what Diamond's shipping and everything, and that started becoming hit or miss. And then some people like started pulling out of distributing. Like I think DC stopped, or maybe Image stopped distributing through Diamond, just because it was always just a nightmare. And I hate to say it, just when I, years back, when I would go to this one comic store before they sold it and retired or whatever, I would see firsthand how poorly stuff would be packed. And a lot of times you'd get like a big box with just like a poster in it, and then other times there'd be like comics just like jammed in a box, just as much as they can, and like a chunk of them would be damaged, and it's like, we can't sell these, and they'd have to send them back, and then either try to get more copies or credit. And so it was just like, and stuff would be delayed, and sometimes it's like, oh, sorry, we couldn't ship. You ordered 50 copies of this, we can only send you 2 right now. We'll send you the next one as soon as we can. And so it was just like all this stuff. But apparently the Absolute books are selling. If so, congrats to DC. That's great. I don't know what it is with me. Part of it, I think what it comes down to, if I'm being perfectly honest, it's the fact that for me, it's like I'm always in a rush to read all these books. I'm working during the day. I'm trying to watch all these shows, and then trying to read all these comics.
And I feel like when we have multiple versions, the deep part is, it's like, why do we have this? There's how many Batman comics, and we got an absolute Batman. So it's like, I don't need to read like 15 different Batman comics a month, where you got future Batman, this Batman, that Batman, and so it's just, we have all these different versions, and in some cases they're good. I mean, my favorite obviously is Wonder Woman, and I don't know if it's. I mean, it's got to be. I like the character obviously, but I'm enjoying Absolute Wonder Woman more than regular Wonder Woman, because that whole Mouse Man stuff, I couldn't stand it. But with Absolute Wonder Woman, it's Kelly Thompson, and I think I love 99.9% of what she writes. Everything, I know it's going to be good, and her Wonder Woman is phenomenal, and she's really given it like a different twist with the origin and just everything. So that's really cool. Yeah, Absolute Batman. I don't know if I shouldn't even bother running through, because those are really the only two I'm reading. Absolute Batman is interesting. I don't love some of the changes, but I can, again, similar with Wonder Woman, I can appreciate that there are differences, that it's not just the same thing. Scott Snyder is doing a good job. He has written Batman many times. He's done a phenomenal job. He knows the character. And rather than just do more of the same and this is Batman year one or whatever, you can definitely feel Batman has a different personality. And there's so many other different aspects, and just the fact that he's like a tank, that I feel like that gives him a different vibe. So I'm appreciating Absolute Batman. I can't say I love it so much. Some of the differences are just too extreme for me, and I feel like some of the action scenes are just like, they're comic books, they're fantasy, they're not real, but sometimes with the Batman stuff, I feel it's just like, it's too out there, and it pulls me out of the story when Bane is all of a sudden turning into 4 stories taller or whatever happened. It's just it's too much for me. But if people love it, awesome, that's great. And then the other, so like Superman, I wanted to like Superman. I'm not sure what it was. Something just kind of pulled me out of it. And, maybe it was just the whole extreme, Wonder Woman and her differences and, where she's coming from. And I don't know, it's just the most exciting part I'm going way too long on this, but with the Superman stuff is when we saw on Krypton, we saw his parents, and there's one issue that I found that really fascinating, just to see them, working and, the stuff that they were doing. Martian Manhunter, I was always interested. I missed an issue or two, and then I just fell behind. Flash, same thing. I wanted to like it. I didn't like how, I don't know what happened to Barry Allen. I'm assuming he's not dead. I mean, it seemed like they killed him off right away. Spoiler, but I find it hard to believe. I mean, but again, anything goes. With Wally, it felt like everyone knew his identity, and that happens sometimes. But I feel like you're skipping over so much when he's a kid with powers, and all of a sudden the rogues know who he is. And that's just, I have such issues with that. I hate when villains know who the heroes are, because you can never have a moment's peace. Because it would be, if they truly are villains, all they have to do is sneak up on you, or your loved ones, and that's it. What else? Are there any other Absolute stuff? But yeah, so we have that. Yeah, so I don't know what's going on in Absolute Superman. I have respect for Jason Aaron. He's a great writer. It's just something was off, and I don't feel like I needed another Superman book, because we have so many Superman books as it is, and just trying to keep up with those. And it's like, where the continuity in the regular books and so forth. So we had that. We have Absolute Wonder Woman. This was a crossover. So we finally had an absolute crossover. And when I heard about this, I'm like, here we go. It's finally happening. But it was good. So we have Wonder Woman meeting up with Batman. She goes to Gotham. There's a reason, she's looking into this case that has to do with like her quote unquote mom, and I don't know why I said it like that. And it was good. What I really appreciate is when they first meet, they don't know who each other are. They've kind of heard rumblings and that. What do heroes usually do when they first meet? They don't trust each other. They start fighting. And I appreciate the fact that that's not what happened here, that they actually talked. And, are they going to trust each other right away? Of course, Batman's not going to trust. He's so skeptical. But I really dig the way they handle this. And the whole conflict, the story was cool. So I dig that. And it's weird because then they're like, okay, see you later. And I think the next issue of Absolute Batman, they're going to meet up again. So it's like, well, that was fast. It's like you just meet up and now you're going to meet again. I was like, okay. Then we got some of the DC KO, whatever they're called. And I'm sure I'm not reading them in order. Let's see, what do we have? We had Lex Luthor versus a demon. And now when you think about something like this, it's like, why are you doing this? Lex Luthor is such a huge part of this story, his evilness or whatever. Is he evil? Is he not? So who do you think is going to win? The demon? And one of the things Lex asks, he's like, why do you care about whether Darkseid lives or not? And Demon's like, well, he did me wrong one time and I just want to have words with him or something like that. So you got them fighting. And from what I gather, I feel like I missed something. And I don't know if it was in the first issue. One of the things I've noticed is with these fights, it makes sense. It's pure video game style, right? It's like, it's best 2 out of 3. So there's 3 rounds. I guess technically there could be 2 if you win both, because I don't think you would get the 3rd round. But basically, you fight to the death as much as you can defeat them. And when you fight, so I don't even know who's controlling this making this decision, but you can choose. And maybe you don't get a choice the first round. I think maybe it might be random. But you can choose which version of yourself you want. So if Aquaman wants, he can go for, beard and a harpoon hand type of thing. You can pick the location. So it's pure video game. You pick the background and that, and then you move on to the next round. So we have Lex Luthor versus Demon. Yeah, and I'm not going to say much about that. Okay, you can kind of figure that out. There was also, wasn't there? There's a Flash and Green Lantern. Okay, I was like, I know I read more than one. There's a Flash and Green Lantern. This is Jay Garrick and Guy Gardner. Now, when you think about this, it's like, I feel like, okay, if you got a speedster, a speedster can zip up behind you and snap your neck, or do whatever. Guy Gardner, he's got the power ring. If he makes a force field around himself, could that prevent a speedster from getting through? Possibly, but if you got the speed force, you can, depending on your mastery of it, you can vibrate through things. So could a Flash vibrate through a Green Lantern construct? I would think probably, maybe. And see, now I'm starting to question, and it's almost like that's the point of these comics. So you're paying for these comics, and all you're doing is you're getting this matchup, and really what it comes down to, because I've seen some people complaining about, especially with the Green Lantern Guy Gardner. And it really depends on who's writing it and what the goal is. When you put up, Lex Luthor and a Demon, you would think, and I'm not going to say anything. I won't spoil that. I won't spoil any of these. But you would think, okay, in terms of the whole story, it's like Lex has to win. So why would you pair these together? Unless you're gonna totally oh yeah, let's take Lex off the board and not worry about him, even though you recently had this whole big huge Lex versus Superman thing. But then with Jay Garrick versus Guy Gardner, with these two characters, it's almost like, well, they're both kind of dispensable, whatever. It almost doesn't really matter for the whole story, because you got multiple Flashes, you got multiple Green Lanterns. So either one you could do away with. So this one, it's almost more for the fans. But you look at the different versions that there are, Like Guy Gardner, he can go with his warrior guys, which he does. He can go as a Red Lantern. So, you have options like that. And Jay Garrick, at one point, he's like, well, whether this is round 2 or round 3 or whatever, he's like, I'm going to become one with the Speed Force. How do you defeat that? And let's say he did that in round 1. Let's say he did that in round 2, whatever. Why wouldn't he just do it in round 3? I mean, maybe by round 3, he'd be like, oh, whatever. Or I guess there would be no round 3. But it's like after you defeat someone once, maybe they could figure out a way around that. I don't know. It's almost silly in a way. And then there's Red Hood versus a Joker. With this, again, you would think, well, there's no way they're going to kill off the Joker right away, right? Because there's got to be something with the Joker. And so I'll say, like, even if they were to kill a Joker, there's got to be some way around it, like something that they're going to do to make up for it. And then Jason Todd, should he win? Should he finally get the peace that he's been longing? Or is he forever going to be like the whipping boy and just lose again? And yeah, so it's just... I guess it almost feels like, let's do this big story. Oh, let's say Darkseid coming back power, but it's like, no, this is just to sell these issues of random character A versus random character B. And I'm curious how they chose these. Red Hood versus Joker, that makes total sense. Lex Luthor versus Demon or Flash versus Green Lantern, those don't quite make so much sense. Those seem more random. Or like I still haven't read the Cyborg versus Swamp Thing. It's like, what? And throughout these issues, you got stuff going on with the true villain in the story, which I won't spoil that. And with those, I'm reading these out of order, and I think they say round 5, round 6, or whatever on there. So maybe I should be paying more attention to that, but I'm not. So. And then the fact is, I guess if you get killed twice, it doesn't mean you're dead forever, right? Because if you can get killed once and then reconstructed or whatever, then like let's say Joker does die, that doesn't mean he's dead. Let's say Lex Luthor dies, doesn't mean he's dead forever, because you obviously you can't do that. You're not. I don't know. So there you go. Hopefully people are digging that. There was Absolute Martian Manhunter. Didn't read that. There was Detective Comics 1104. So this is continuing. This is the Tom King, Mikhail Janin series where Batman has been infected and he's fighting. He has to like basically quarantine himself, but he's still doing this mission. So he ends up with the suit. One thing that's really, it's about time. And I was like tempted, like in the old days, I would say like, oh, this deserves like a spoilery article. And I'm sure people have already posted it, if not already. But basically, Batman gives Superman, because Superman's been appearing in this. Batman's been getting help from Superman and Lois, because he's not afraid to ask for help, which is great, character development. Or evolution, whatever you want to call it. But at one point, he gives like Superman like it wasn't really a thumb drive. It's something that only he can access, and it's like I think it's to his fingerprint. And Bruce said something about like it's only the amount of pressure that he can give to it. So does that mean maybe it's like a lot of pressure? It has to be like super strength pressure to squeeze this or whatever without breaking it? I don't know. Or is it like such a fine? I'm assuming he meant like hard pressure, but he basically said that these are ways that you can take me down, should that ever need to happen. And it's the same thing. I mean, it makes sense because if Superman trusts Bruce with a kryptonite ring in case it needs to be taken down, it should go both ways. Where everyone knows Batman has the contingency plans against all the heroes. He knows how he can take them out. They got pissed off at him when they found out about it, which I don't know. It makes sense because Batman is looking for the greater good of mankind or whatever. And if all of a sudden Wonder Woman goes evil, what are they gonna do? Just sit back and let her like just plow through and kill how many, countless innocents or whatever? It's like, no, you got, okay, here is plan B or whatever in case things don't go right. We can do this. And they all got mad because they didn't know about it. What's he supposed to say? Oh, by the way, I know your weaknesses, so I got plans to take you down. Because then they might be like, well, I better make sure I come up with a different idea or protect myself. So it makes sense that Superman would have, a way to take down Batman. Although, is Batman utterly undefeatable? Maybe, I don't know. He has contingencies for everything, but he doesn't always win. I don't know. There's Green Lantern number 30. I haven't been really keeping up with Green Lantern just because of time and everything like that. I did read this, so I didn't know where this kind of came from. And there's elements, I guess, I was familiar. Because at one point, Hal, there's an entry in the book of Oa, like, prophecy. And I don't know if we know specifically what it says, but it was something about Hal, and it was like really major. And he's just like, what the heck? And so he goes to Batman because he's like, I need someone to give me like a true like analysis, someone who doesn't care and doesn't care about me, isn't gonna like sugarcoat it type of thing. And they end up having to go on these other missions, or there's some stuff that they have to deal with in Gotham. There's some stuff with there's like a kid involved, and Hal's like really good with the kid, and it felt a little out of character because Bruce normally is really good with kids because he was a kid when he went through the most horrific moment of his life. And we've seen issues where he is kind and compassionate. Where like doesn't he have like lollipops in his utility belt? Wasn't there like someone wrote that? So I don't know. I mean, it was a good issue with Batman and Hal, but parts of it felt a little off. And then I don't know if I read anything else. There was Justice League Red, number 5. I haven't been keeping up with that. Oh, I missed Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong. I think that was, I forget if that's issue 3. Immortal Legend of Batman. So I'm not reading that, even though I'm curious. I did read Trinity, Daughter of Wonder Woman. And part of me, I felt like, because, we had the backup stories with Trinity. And I don't think these are those same stories. I think these are different. This one, basically, Trinity, because we have like the 3 different versions of Trinity, like different moments in time, which I'm not sure how that happened. But she like runs into Steve Trevor, and it's basically the last day that he's alive. And so it's like, well, crap, what do you do about that? So that was an interesting story. Then we had Green Arrow. There's Batman, Static Beyond. There's Harley Quinn, Harley and Ivy, and that's all I read. So that long thing, that was a comic. I don't even know how long this segment was. That was comics for the week. All right, then Pluribus Season 1, Episode 8, Charm Offensive. As I record this, the final episode of the season is out. I should have mentioned this in the news since I complained that there was no news. But the creators, showrunners, they said that, yeah, we're not in a rush, basically, to do Season 2. It'll happen when it happens type of thing. I think what they mean by that is when they were working on the series, there was kind of like no pressure. It's like, okay, we're working on this. What can we do? We'll go here and so forth. So they don't want to feel pressure or rushed to crank out the second season, just to meet a deadline or something like that. So they want it to be more natural, like a natural progression, and just like what comes to them. Okay, cool, great, but how long is that going to take? They don't have a starting time for production, so it's like it's not like, okay, we're going to start shooting in January or we're going to start shooting in May. It's like they have no idea. So that means anyone involved, which you mainly there's just a few characters, and that you have to lock them in, and it sucks for them because then it's like, well, you can't take on another gig. You can't, join this other show or do this movie because we're going to need you for this. Or unless it's like, okay, do what you got to do. And when we're ready, hopefully things will line up. But at the same time, what if like another show, you're just not going to, Carol, is she not going to be, trying out for another show? Because, how does she, she got paid for this now. How long is that going to last? And yeah, so it's kind of weird, but that's how it goes. So anyways, we're on episode 8. So you can finish this now. We will I'll finish episode 9 next week. We'll save that. All right. So it starts off like a doctor asks Manusos, because he passed out last time. Asks him, how he, and it's a quote unquote doctor because it's just one of the many, but it's still a doctor. He asks him how he's feeling because he's lying on his chest. He's got an oxygen mask on, and dude says that he gave them a scare. Does he remember what happened? And the good news is that the infection is responding to the antibiotics. And we see his back is looking pretty nasty because it's all scarred up, and he tried using a scalding hot machete on his back to sear it off, whatever. And the doctor dude says that he'll probably need to stay there a while because he has to regain his strength. And in the next scene, he grabbed a scalpel because there's like a tray of scalpels next to him, like within his eyesight. So he has a scalpel. He's holding up to the dude's neck, and the thing, as he's walking out of the room, it's like he's kind of leaning on the guy in order to walk because he's like so weak and everything like that. And there's others like in the hallway, they're watching. They go like to the nurse's station type of thing. And the doctor, he says that they understand this is a lot to process, but he needs more time to heal. His body needs a rest. Manusos, he's like, I'm leaving. And he's like, what do I owe? And the doctor dude, he's like, you owe us nothing. And then he's like, not you. He's like, the real people who were here before. He's like, the hospital, stitches, medicine, everything costs something. So this lady behind the counter, she sat at a computer, and she's like, before the joining, your treatment from this particular hospital would have cost $8,277.53 in either Balboas or American dollars. And he's like, Balboas? He's like, I'm in Panama? And she just nods. And then she's like, will you be requiring an itemized receipt? And he nods. On the receipt, he shakily writes, I, Manusos Oviedo, owe this hospital $8,277.53 plus one ambulance. And then he signs it. He stumbles out with his clothes in like a bag. He's still wearing like the hospital gown and everything like that. He goes into an ambulance. He drives off. Meanwhile, Carol's like making lemonade or something while Zosia's sitting in the living room. Zosia, she says, cheers with her drinks, and she comments that the art piece looks really good here because she took it from the museum. Carol says that she's like, oh, I was about to return that, and Zosia's like, we think it looks wonderful right here. And Carol's like, I was just keeping it safe. Really, there's a lot of animals roaming around here. Wolves, and she's like, buffalo. And she's like, and if they were to wander into the museum and start rubbing against the paintings, it's going to be. And so she's like, yeah. She's like, that could be problematic. And then pause. She's like, we can secure those buildings if you like. And Carol's like, great. That would be great. He's like, don't want a buffalo eating the Mona Lisa. After a pause, she's like, I don't know what to talk about. And Zosia's like, who says that we have to talk? And she's like, how about a board game? And Carol's like, seriously? And Zosia's like, that could be fun. So Carol goes to the cabinet, starts looking. She's like, what are we feeling? Bananagrams? She's like, no, that wouldn't be any fun because you know all the words. And she's like, chess? And she's like, no, Jesus, no. And Zosia's like, also, you're missing a white rook, remember? But we can get you a new one. Because, so she knows everything. And then Carol's like, what else? Risk? She's like, world domination. She's like, that's hilarious. She's like, not sure why we have that one. And then Zosia's like, what about the one you used to play with your cousins? So it's they're playing this card game called Spit. And, there's like 2 decks. You flip the cards, and when a certain one comes up, you have to like quickly put your hand on them or whatever. You can look. I had no idea what they were playing. Maybe. I don't know if I've heard of it with a different name. But Carol says, she hasn't thought about this game in years because, her Nana had 2 colored decks and always made sure they put them back correctly. And Zosia says, loser has to sort, because I guess that's probably what they said. So Carol pauses for a second because she realizes that, she knew that. And then Zoja's like, would you like your cousin Henry to come visit? You haven't seen him since Christmas 2005. And Carol's like, it would be exactly like talking to you, right? And Zoja just like kind of puts her hands out and a shrug, like, yeah, I guess. And Carol's like, then nah. It's like, he didn't want to see me the past 41 days, so why bother now? And then she's like, why do they call it Spit, the game? And so she's like, we don't know exactly. And she's like, what do you mean? She's like, you know everything, right? It's like, Spit. And Zoja's like, we know it originated in the UK during the 80s. It's like, there's different theories as to who named it, but no clear answer. And then Zoja wins a hand. And she's like, ha. Because I think Carol had asked before, if she's like, are you letting me win or you just suck at this? It was kind of funny the way Zoja's like, ha. Carol's like, it's like playing cards with fudging Google, because, the way she's explaining the history of it. Then they're outside. Carol asks if everyone's back now, and Zoja says, like, oh, another hour or two should do it. And Carol's like, do you think you guys could power wash that off? Because she rode on the road, come back. And Zoja's like, absolutely. And Carol's like, thanks. Okay, well, she's like, have a good night. And Zoja's like, Carol, we can stick around as long as you want. And she's like, what? No. I'm sure you have things to do, and I've got like a bunch of chores and whatnot. Then Zoja starts heading to her car. And Carol's like, it just occurred to me that I never even thought to ask where you live. And Zoja's like, there's no such thing as ownership anymore. No private property. Wherever we hang our hat is our home. And Carol's like, right, but I mean, where do you sleep at night? And she's like, we can show you. So then they're in like, it's a kind of like a hockey arena, indoor soccer, it's, some sort of like arena type of thing. There's people like laying down on mats on the floor. And, some people, you can see they're like helping those in wheelchairs and all this stuff like that. And Carol's like, everyone sleeps together. And Zoja's like, mm-hmm. And Carol's like, why? And Zoja's like, it saves on electricity, natural gas. It's more efficient to heat and cool one big room than hundreds of small ones. And Carol's like, this isn't going to turn into the orgy scene at the end of the Matrix movie, is it? And Zoja's like, not unless you want it to. And Carol kind of gives her like a glaring look. You're like, wait, are you serious? Zoja just like looks at Carol like innocently, and then she kind of giggles. We make use of spaces like this all over the world: malls, churches, convention centers. And this dog had come up to them, and she's like, "Wait, this dog is not one of you, is it?" And Zoja's like, "Definitely not. Though he is a very good boy. His name is Bear Jordan." And Carol like pets him. Carol's like, "I didn't realize you kept pets." And Zoja's like, "We don't. But when an animal refuses to leave its former owner's side, we take care of them. Bear is fond of Malcolm over there." This old dude, like a beard, like waves to her. And she's like, "Would you like to stay with us tonight?" And Carol's like a little caught off guard. And Zoja's like, "We can make you your own bed if you would like." And she's like, No. And Zoja's like, "In private." And Carol's like, "That's okay. I'm going to head home." And Zoja's like, "Whatever makes you happy." She's like, "We can drive you, or you're welcome to take our car." And Carol's like, I'll figure something out. Zoja's like, "Do you mind if we lie down?" Because she's just probably, her body's tired or whatever. So Carol like stands there with the dog, like, sitting next to her, and everyone else is like lying down, getting ready. So, and then later you see Carol's actually sleeping there, and she wakes and realizes her arm's like on Zoja's shoulder, and she like pulls it back, and she kind of looks around like everyone's sleeping. So she fell asleep there, and she's kind of caught off guard. In the morning, Zoja drives her back to her place, and the words on the ground are already gone. So they sit in the driveway for a moment, like in silence. Zoja finally says, "We had a wonderful time with you. We're very happy to be back." And Carol's like, "Yeah." And then Zoja's like, "Would you like us to make you breakfast?" And Carol's like, No. She's like, "I can manage." She's like, "I had a nice time too." And she gets out of the car. She goes inside, opens her whiteboard to like her the lists on them, because so basically I don't know if I explained it. There's like there's cabinets, like she opened the cabinets, there's a whiteboard, and they're like rolling whiteboards. So she has like maybe two whiteboards, and they just like roll back and forth. So one's like on top of the other. So she has her Waikaro 5 whiteboard, and underneath that she has her list on the people. So she adds a number 6, and she's like, "They eat people," and she underlines people. Because, she's probably looking and it's like, oh, they're nice, they're being kind and all this like that. But she's like reminding herself, it's like, no, they eat people. They dead people, but they're still eating people. So she wants to remember that. Then I don't know if it's another day, Carol and Zoja go hiking. They kind of comment on the view. There's like on a big cliff and big empty whatever, desert. Carol, there's a train in the distance, and she comments. She's like, oh, I just love trains. She's like, something about the sound of the horn. And Zoja's like, what about it? And Carol's like, come on, I must have told some human being at some point that I love train horns. And Zoja just like shakes her head. She's like, I thought you knew everything about me. And Zoja's like, not this. And Carol's like, it is the loneliest sound in the world. And then as they start looking down the canyon, the train horn starts going off, and Carol smiles. And then she's like, how do you do that? And she's like, something to do with our body's electromagnetic field. It's like our natural electric charge, so to speak. She's like, you have one too, just unused. Carol's like, so like a radio? And Zoja's like, sort of, but radio transmission is like talking. It's conscious. Our communication is unconscious, homeostatic, like breathing. There's a lot we still don't really understand. And Carol's like, why do you still need trains anyways? And Zoja's like pauses, and she's like, food distribution. So Carol knows what that means, and she just kind of looks away. Then outside at like this fancy building, they're poolside, they're getting massages. Carol lets out like a big groan, and Zoja's like, are you okay? And she's like, oh yeah, I'm great. She's like, sorry, carry on. She's like, does this feel good to you too? And Zoja's like, absolutely. Carol's like, so like how? She's like, I mean, I know you're getting a massage right now, but technically it's you giving it to yourself? And Zoja's like, yes. Carol's like, meanwhile, you're simultaneously giving me a massage. So, I mean, and Zoja's like, that's true. And she sits up a little bit. She's like, how does that work? Does everyone feel what you're feeling right now? Is the whole world getting massage? And Zoja's like, no, not exactly. It's kind of like in the last 10 minutes, there's been 1,674 deaths and 965 births. And, just as we said this, a man in Bulgaria was accidentally impaled on an iron fence. And Carol's like, oh, Jesus. And Zoja's like, oh, it's okay. We don't think he pierced anything vital. To feel everything at all at once would be unbearable, but we know it as it happens. We're aware you just got goosebumps. Having said that, this massage feels good. At night, Carol's like looking at some telescope, and she's like, so that's where it came from? And Zoja's like, that's it. It's star anyways. And Carol's like, Kepler 22? And she's like, uh-huh. She's like, and the planet which you can't see is Kepler 22b. She's like, that's our name for it. We have no idea what they call it. It's got the radius roughly twice that of Earth. And we think their planet may be one enormous ocean. Sometimes we close our eyes and try to picture it. Carol keeps like looking and says, she's like, I'm not sure I'm looking at the right spot. And, they both try like describing what they're looking at. And she's like, I can't tell one dot from the next. So Zoja's like, well, there's a lot of light from the city. She's like, let's see what we can do about that. The lights go out in the distance. And Carol's like, wow. And Zoja's like, try it now. She's like, we could place it in the center of the eyepiece for you to make it easier to spot. And Carol's like, wait a minute, wait. It's like, I think I see it. Then she's like, so what are the people like on Kepler 22b? And Zoja's like, we'll probably never learn the first thing about them. They're too far away. But we do know we love them, we are grateful to them, and we'll pay it forward however long that may take. And Carol's like, what does that mean? And Zoja's like, we have to share their gift with whoever else might be out there. And Carol's like, just to be clear, out there? And she's like, mm-hmm. And she's like, how exactly do they do that? So on her whiteboard, number 7, communal sleeping / cuddle puddle and something. You can't really see everything because she's like standing in the way she's writing. She wrote something like heat, energy efficient. Number 8, communicate via body's electric charge something. Telepathy, I think she wrote, ? Number 9, trains to transport food, in parentheses, ugh. Number 10, individuals feel everyone knows something. She couldn't read that. 11, signal from Kepler 22b, 640 light years, something. Number 12, building an giant antenna, and then something after that. Like all power in the world to send signal to something. And then her pen like runs out, so she like picks up the phone to ask for a favor. Zoja rings the bell, has a box of whiteboard pens. She hands them to Carol. She's like, does this mean what we think it means? And Carol's like, what? And she's like, you're writing again? And she's like, writing Waikaro? Yeah, I had an idea and I just started filling up my whiteboard and suddenly my marker ran dry. So yeah, I'm writing again. And Zosia's like, well, don't let us keep you. She's like, we are so excited to have something new to read and another Waikaro. That's only if you want to share it with us, of course. And absolutely no pressure. And Carol's like, sure. And then some workers, like on a roof, a couple houses down, they're like, happy writing, Carol. And she's just like, okay. She goes back in, and the Waikaro 5 notes are up on top of the other stuff. And she stops and looks at it. She starts thinking about it. Then she slides it to the side. Later, she's playing croquet, another day or whatever, with Zosia, like on a football field. Carol comes close to making a shot, and she's like, oh, I used to be good at this when I was a kid. Zosia makes a shot. And Carol's like, are you freaking kidding me? You said you never played before. So Zosia, she's like, Zosia's never played, but we have the combined knowledge of every living croquet champion. So that's, a bit of an advantage. And Carol's like, yeah, I get that with like chess or whatever, but hitting a ball is muscle memory. It's like, you guys all share that too? And Zosia's like, maybe, or maybe you just suck. And then some organ music starts playing, dun, 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 and like the scoreboard flashes, you suck, Carol. And she's like, we're doing that? It's like, okay, well, just for that, I'm going to beat all 7 billion of you. She's like, yep, so 7 billion butts about to get kicked. And Zosia's like, may we ask you a question? And she's like, sure. And she's like, what was your best day writing? And Carol's like, no such thing. And Zosia's like, really? And she's like, come on, you have other writers in there. You should know. That's like asking what's the most fun you ever had getting your teeth drilled. So she's like, oh, you poor tortured artist. She's like, by the way, it's still my turn. And Carol's like, why are you asking? So they pull up to this diner. Carol looks confused. She gets out. There's people inside. And she's like, this place has been closed for years. She goes to the booth. She's like, I never thought I would be back here. And she sits and just kind of takes it in. So she's like, may we join you? And she's like, yeah. She sits. She's like, would you tell us what you're feeling? We'd be honored to share it with you. And Carol's like, well, it all started right here, as you obviously know. I used to write longhand on yellow legal pads that I stole from my temp job. I'd like 20 of them, and I'd have to go back and forth, scratch stuff out. It was like the whole time I'm just like dreaming of saving up enough money for a laptop, and then I'd rip the pages out, clip them all together with this giant metal clip, which I also stole, which took both hands to pry open just enough so I could add a single page. It would give me like huge dents in my palms, and the whole thing was a fudging nightmare. And Zosia like looks at her with this big smile, and she's like, and there was this waitress, she's like, Bree, and I loved her. She kept my coffee topped off, and she never hassled me about hogging the booth all day. And then there's this waitress behind the counter, and Carol like looks at her, and she comes up, gives her some coffee, so it must be her, because Carol's like in shock. And then she says to Zosia, she's like, this place was my escape. And she's like, I was devastated when and she's like, wait, it burned down. She's like, you rebuilt it? And Zosia continues smiling and kind of looks down. And she's like, from nothing? From an empty lot? Zosia's like, we did. And Carol's not sure what to say. And finally she's like, God, I miss those days. Working all night so I could write all morning. And then, those were the best days. And she goes like silent again. And there's like strange look on her face. And Zosia leans closer. She's like, is everything okay? And without answering, Carol gets up, walks out, tire squeal. She takes off in Zosia's car. Later at night, Carol's at home having a drink in her balcony. Zosia pulls up in another car. Carol goes down to let her in. And she's like, you left us pretty quickly today. Is everything all right? And she's like, yeah, peachy. And Zosia's like, sarcasm. And she's like, yes, you want a drink? You want a drink. And Zosia's like, we'll have one if it pleases you. And she's like, we think, we want. Would it kill you to say I? Would it? And she's like, of course not. I find it odd semantically, but of course, we could. And Carol's like, wow, all the brains in the world, and you can't navigate a fudging pronoun. And she's like, is this why you're upset? And Carol's like, where was that waitress living, Bree, on joining day? Back when she was she and not you, where was she? And Zosia's like, Miami. And she's like, working? Vacation? And Zosia's like, working as a cosmetologist, recently married. And Carol's like, but not anymore. So she had moved on with her life, and then what? You dropped her back here to do a little play acting, waitress theater? And she's like, Carol, we're not sure we understand what's troubling you. Could you be more specific? And Carol's like, are you trying to distract me, knock me off my course? You rebuild my favorite diner. You jump for joy when I tell you I'm writing again. But it's all an act. It's manipulative BS because you know I haven't given up. Admit it. Tell me you know I won't give up. And Zoja's like, we know. We wish you would, but it's also true. We love Waikaro. And Carol's like, all right, honesty. Let's go for it. Cards on the table. I like you. You people. You whatever. There's a lot of things that I like about you, but this is a train wreck. This is unsustainable. It's mental illness. It's psychosis. You are starving, and you can't even pick a GD apple off a tree. Someone has to put the world right, even if it means you all leave me again. Even if it means that I. And Carol takes like a breath because she's like tripping, and Zoja like steps closer, and then leans in and kisses her. And Carol like kind of like pulls back and looks at her, kind of like, "What are you doing?" They like stare at each other for a bit. Then Carol gives in, starts like kissing Zoja, and dun dun dun. Zoja wakes up later in bed. Carol's not there. She sees Carol at her laptop. Later, Carol's printing pages out. Zoja comes in. She's like, morning. How long have you been awake? And she's like, long enough. She's like, do you want to read chapter 1? So Carol sits on the stairs waiting, looks up trying to figure out like when Zoja's coming down, like kind of looking upstairs. She finally comes and sits next to her. And Carol's like, don't leave me hanging. And Zoja's like, Raban is a woman now? And Carol's like, long overdue, but I figured now, why not? And Zoja's like, makes sense. So are you going to just retcon it? And she's like, no need. It can happen canonically. And Zoja's like, how? And she's like, the font of truth from the second book? She's like, no, that wouldn't work. And Carol's like, no, yeah, you're right. And then Zoja's like, the shapeshifters of Golenbray? And Carol's like, I was thinking the caverns of, and she's like, the caverns of Abalor? And she's like, yeah. She's like, but weren't those lots of time? And Carol's like, well, sure, but what is time to someone like Raban? They just have to get their hands on Captain Virgil's, and they both like, temporal compass. And Zoja's like, wow. And Carol's like, I thought about Lucasia using the compass for something. For the life of me, I can't remember what, but it just makes more sense for Raban. Zoja is like, shakes her head in amazement. And Carol's like, yeah, so you like it so far? And she's like, Carol, and she leans forward. She's like, I love it. And Carol kind of snickers. Then we're at day 60, hour 8, 59 minutes, 27 seconds. Carol's doing the dishes. She looks out her back window like Helen's grave. Zoja comes up. And Carol's like, I hope you're making enough for both of us because you're eating too. And she's like, mm-hmm. And Carol's like, you like omelets, right? And she's like, we do. We love all breakfast foods. And Carol's like, sure, but you, like lowercase u, does Zoja like omelets? And she's like, I like omelets. Never had many chances to try them. So Carol's like, what is your favorite food? And she thinks for a bit. And she's like, mango ice cream. I love mango ice cream. There was an old man in my neighborhood which sold it out of a little cart. I would watch the ships leaving Gdańsk, which is like, I think I looked up as like northern Poland. It's like brand new, first voyage. I was maybe 10 years old, and I was fascinated by these giant ships. Who built them? What for? Where were they going? And now I know. Sometimes the man with the cart would hand out ice cream bars to us whenever he had too many to sell. He knew we didn't have, coins to rub together. It was just after the country had opened up, and suddenly he had new flavors: mint, coffee, peach. But mango, that was my favorite. And Carol's like, thank you for sharing that. Then Zoja gets a concerned look on her face, and Carol notices, and she's like, Zoja? And then she like snaps out of it. She's like, you're going to have a visitor. And we see Manosos, he's like standing outside the ambulance, pour some like alcohol in the wound in his back. And then he backs onto this like huge thing of gauze, like a bandage to bandage himself up. And then the road sign says Frontera, Mexico, Estados Unidos, 31 kilometers. So he's at the border. And that's where episode 8 ends. So episode 9, next week we'll talk about that. The final episode of the season. What's going to happen? Manoso and Carol are going to meet up. What does that mean? We'll find out.
Okay, now time for Fallout. I'm still a little hesitant about covering this because I didn't cover all of season one. I think I only covered the first episode. And if you're not watching, if you haven't watched season one of Fallout, then this isn't going to make any sense to you. But if you are, then I guess then that's fine. And part of the reason I'm doing this is because Pluribus has one more episode next week. Adventure Time this week is the last week episode, and then there's Stranger Things. I'm only going to do one a week, so that's 3 weeks. So I want to have something to talk about. So we'll see about that. So basically, what happened in season one, and again, if you haven't watched it, this is going to make no sense. But we basically had. Can I summarize this? There's a bunch of people living in a vault. There's like rooms and stuff like that because there's like a nuclear attack or something like that. And we have Lucy is our main character. Her dad, Kyle MacLachlan. Lucy's going to get married. There's a joining of the vaults. Because their vaults are connected. They're in, I think, vault 33. It turns out that they were attacked, that the people that came to join in the celebration were actually from the surface. And they were there really to kidnap Lucy's dad, Kyle MacLachlan. So then Lucy decides, I have to go after him. And so she's going to go on the surface, but they're like, no, we can't go on the surface. So she goes out there. It turns out that the world isn't completely as devastated as they thought. Because they thought everyone's the few survivors are all like mutated or whatever, even though these people there weren't. But the things are pretty ravaged, and there's like radiation and stuff around. But there are some pockets of civilization, and a lot of people are just kind of whatever. I don't even know how you would describe them. But there are some few places that are thriving, and that's where we get these other characters because there's this like kind of like a army base where there's like these armored soldiers. They're called knights, and we see this one guy who really wants to be like a squire, be like the armored person's like assistant and carry their equipment and stuff like that. So this one guy, through various things, what's his name? Not Titus. I'm drawing a blank. He ends up becoming a squire through different means. It's kind of questionable how he got there. And then his knight was, kind of arrogant jerk and making him do everything. He ends up killing him. So he's in the suit. Everyone thinks that he's the knight, that he's, again, I want to say Titus, but I don't know if that's right. He meets up with Lucy and stuff like that. Lucy's trying to find her dad. And then there's, what's his name? I'm not going to list the actors' names because you can look that up. But then there's Ghoul, who was like revived, and I don't even know how you would describe them. I'm sure it's there's some mention of it where he's sort of like mutated. He like has no nose, and he has to. They're kind of like zombies in a way because he has to constantly take this like inhaler, not constantly, but every once in a while. Otherwise, he like loses his mind and everything like that. Because we've seen like there's someone that he knew that was like needed some of the stuff, but it's hard to come by, and he's like losing his facilities type of thing. So he's kind of like a bounty hunter or whatever. You go through this whole season, different things come up, and with Ghoul, you find out that he was actually he's like a couple hundred years old. Because he was like sort of like suspended, not really suspended animation, but he was around before things dropped, and he used to be an actor, like like a cowboy western actor and everything. And it's weird because like when we have the flashbacks to the old time, it's kind of like the 50s type of thing, but like there are some modern elements added, like the cars are not like quite, they're like 50s, but they're not quite, and everything like that. So you have all this different stuff that happens, and he was actually kind of signed on to like promote the vaults and everything like that. And then he finds out that there's like a shadier side of things that like some people are like trying to sell the end of the world. They're trying to make money off it and stuff like that. And then he finds out that his wife is kind of like working with these shady people about that, and he's starting to question like, wait, what's going on? And
it turned out that like Kyle MacLachlan was around back then too. So I was like, how could that be? It's supposed to be a couple hundred years, because we also saw this guy Titus when he was a kid. Like huge bomb went off in his city, but he happened to like duck in a refrigerator, so he was like the only survivor there, and like all this stuff. So I don't know if that's a good summary of what's going on. So let's just jump into episode 2. I'm assuming if you're listening to this segment, if you haven't skipped over to the next part, you are watching this. So if you are watching this, you're probably like, that is a horrible description of season 1, but I think that's everything. And what I'm really curious is how this compares to the video game, because I haven't played the game. I'm pretty sure, right? Yeah. And I don't know like how many of these characters are actual characters from the game, how many were created. I'm assuming characters like maybe like Lucy and Ghoul, that they're actual characters, but like I don't know about these other characters. Because like in this episode, there's this one character, Nick, something that rhymes with Nick, starts with a P R. I don't know if, because he was listed in a closed caption. They never call him by his full name, and so like is that? I was going to look it up. I'm not going to look it up. So let's just get started. So season 2, episode 1, The Innovator. So it starts out in the city. Some guys in like old timey suits are beating like on a robot or like an armored suit or whatever. There's this then it cuts this politician talking on TV, and some guys in a bar complaining. They're like, we didn't vote for him. And then one guy, and this dude speaks up. He's like, oh, yes, we did. He's like, every dollar spent is a vote cast. And that fella right there, he has more votes than every one of those pan-headed politicians in Washington. Dude at the bar, he's like, oh, are you his biggest fan or something? And the guy's like, why, yes, I believe I am. And if the will of the American people was to endow that man with a significant portion of its wealth, well, good golly, that can't be a bad thing now, can it? He's like, what trade are you in, friend? And the guy's like, construction. He's like, so you must use the H&H nail gun. It's a marvelous machine. Nice in hand, smooth action. Sure beats using a silly old hammer, doesn't it? Why, I thought you'd be grateful. The guy's like, grateful? And he chuckles. He's like, I think you're in the wrong bar, pal. He's like, obsolescence. And he clicks his tongue. It's a heck of a thing. I try and see it from your perspective, but it's hard to imagine being so dim as to be caught off guard by the inevitable. So then the dude, his name is Bill, he grabs the suit guy. The suit guy is Robert House. I think. Was he Robert House? He takes him outside, with his, buddies are behind him. And the guy's, Robert, the suit guy, he's like, hit me in the mouth. I think I'd enjoy it. So the guy punches him. Man laughs as he's bent over, and he stands up. He's like, I'm really wrong, but let's move on. He clicks a button. He has like his remote device in his pocket. His trunk of his car opens up. The men look. He's like, that is $31 million. He's like, now, what would you do for all of that money? Short of ideas? He's like, well, that's no surprise. How about I offer you one? He reaches, takes out a couple of things, holds up a little square thing with like prongs and like an antenna. He's like, allow me to put this on the back of your neck. And the guy, Bill, he's like, what the hell is it? He's like, oh, just call it good old-fashioned market research. All I'm asking you to do is insert this in the back of your neck, and all that nice money right there is yours. And then he grabs him by the lapels. He's like, how about I break those hands you've never used? See if you even notice. Then we'll take this money. He looks at his buddy, and Robert jams the device on the back of his dude's neck. And there's like this high-pitched ringing, and the guy like gasps, and he like stands there. The other two guys, they don't do anything. They're just standing there. And Robert presses a button on his remote. Ringing stops, and he takes out a baseball bat from his trunk, puts it in Bill's hands, and he quietly says, he's like, I'd like for you to do me a small favor. And he presses the button again. Get rid of your friends. He hits one guy in the side and beats him like over and over again while he's down. The other guy's like in shock, and he starts running, so he goes after him. And Roberts says, them using a nail gun paid for all this. So as the guy's running down the alley, Bill throws a bat, knocks him down. And Bill is kind of like crouched. And then Robert turns the dial on a remote. Bill's like looking at him like he's going to attack. And then his head explodes. And Robert picks up like the bloody device. He's like, the world may end, but progress marches on. So then it's in like the current, present, whatever. And this is where we see this Nick guy. And he's like, I got something really exciting for you today. So one guy takes a hit off an inhaler. And so I was like, at first I was like, is he like ghoul or whatever? He's like, this a-hole has been tormenting us cons since before your granddaddies were born. And today, some little bounty hunter put him right in our fudging laps. So now we're going to settle the score. He's like, how do you feel about that? So they have Ghoul. He's got like barbed wire kind of like wrapped around his neck. It's like, there's like, I can't remember if it's like chain and barbed wire. It's like mixed, both of them. Like he's about to be hung. He's standing out like on this little platform. He comments this one building, asking, he's like, didn't it used to be a store? He's like, I bought a soda pop there about 25 years ago or something like that. And Nick's like, are you done? And he says, because they have justice to do. And Ghoul says, there's a woman behind the counter, Darla. She was reasonable until you matching jacket mofos had to move in. And he's like, well, it's been nice chatting with y'all, but if it's okay with you, I'm about ready to get on with it. And he's like, what? You can't hear me? I'll say it louder. I said, I'm about ready to get on with it. So Lucy is perched inside this giant dinosaur structure, like she's in the mouth, along with the dog. I guess the dog's name is Dog Meat, right? And she has like a rifle with a scope. And Ghoul repeats, he's like, to get on with it. So she's supposed to like, working together. It's like where did the season end last time. And she sits there like thinking about it. And Ghoul like curses. One of the jacket dudes starts like pulling a lever on the top of the platform the Ghoul is standing on, and shoom, he starts dangling, like choking. Jacket dudes laugh, and then Lucy calls out. She's like, "Hi, excuse me." She's like, "So sorry." So she's standing now. She's like, "I'm hoping we can settle this argument between myself and my traveling companion there. We are hunting down my father, who is not a good guy, and on this journey, we found ourselves in need of food and supplies. Plan A was to leave you alone and avoid this scenario altogether. But we've tried that, and I'd start starving to death." And Ghoul is still like hanging and choking. It's like Plan B, his idea, by the way, was for me to turn him over to you so that you'd open up your safe and give me the considerable bounty that you put out on him. And he's like, fudging shoot. And she's like, the idea was I would shoot him down, he'd take your weapons and use whatever violence necessary in order for us to escape, which in my experience thus far is it's a lot of violence. So I'm really, really hoping that you'll agree to Plan C. And Nick's like, what's Plan C? She's like, you just let us go and we keep the caps you gave me, which to be clear, we do need for our survival. And just to ask the question, would it help if I said please? And then dog barks. And the guy's like, whoever kills a girl gets to eat the dog. And she's like, okie dokie. She shoots and hits a rope. Ghoul goes down and he's like dangling over like this, like an empty pool. So they start shooting at Lucy, and she has to duck down. Ghoul opens this like old cooler or something he uses for cover as he's like loosening his ropes. He has this little pistol in his boots. Lucy shoots like one guy in the shoulder, and then she shoots another guy like in a hip or butt or something like that. And then Ghoul shoots a couple guys. He hits like one right in the eye. He goes down, and Lucy's like shaking her head at how brutal he is. He like curses, calls her like a fudging amateur, like under his breath. Then she shoots a car and causes it to explode. Ghoul climbs out of the empty pool. He hits one guy like across the head with his rope that has the barbed wire. He takes out a second guy with it also. Picks up a rifle, starts shooting, shoots three of them, and then the rifle jams. Throws a knife into this other guy's chest. Uses him as cover. Shoots the guy with the. He grabs a guy's gun. It's like grenade bullets or something like that because it blows up one guy's head. Hits another guy like dead center in the chest. He goes flying back. Then he takes a guy's hat and he like drops him down. Lucy's like shaking her head disapprovingly. He sticks a grenade down a guy's shirt, kicks him into another, guy, knocking them into like the empty pool. They blow up, and then he like tips and salutes her with his hat, and she's not happy with his violence. So they're walking out of town. Ghoul's like sprays some healing stuff on his neck. Then they're walking out. They're like in an open desert wasteland. He says, Lucy's like, I know you think you're being helpful, shooting folks in the kneecaps and the ass, but if I'm being honest, you ain't. And she's like, I'm not going to apologize for not murdering people. He's like, well, all that matters to me is that you shoot the fudge rope. And she's like, well, I did, didn't I? They continue walking. But the thing is, when she's shooting someone in the shoulder or whatever, or they have the potential of dying from infection or whatever, because they're not going to necessarily have care that easily, right? I mean, he's got this healing spray stuff. I don't know how common that is. So I don't know. So then they reach the outskirts of the big city. Lucy says it still looks like, the old photos. And he's like, bombs got shot down, most of them anyways. And she's like, well, if they could do that for Las Vegas, why couldn't they just do that for all America? He's like, because there was no they, there was a him, a man by the name of Robert House, who we saw at the beginning. And she's like, maybe that's where your family went. They're safe there. He's like, nowhere near Robert House is safe. And she's like, why would my dad go to Las Vegas? And Ghoul sighs and continues walking. Then we get a flashback where Ghoul, back when he was Cooper Howard, he hears Robert over this listening device. He's like, there's a lot of earning potential with the end of the world. So Cooper's wife, Barb, she's like in this conference room, and because that other lady who kidnapped Lucy's dad, she was actually working for the opposition. She gave him a listening device, and she's like trying to tell him, that his wife is working with the other side, and he like didn't believe it. So he's listening to this meeting. The guy's like, how can you guarantee results? And she's like, by dropping the bomb ourselves. So Cooper just like shuts his eyes. He goes home, calls out to his daughter, Janie, gives her a big hug. And he's like, listen to me. It's like, I want you to go to your room, okay? I want you to pick out your 3 favorite outfits and your favorite toy, okay? And then meet me back here. So they drive off with the dog. Janie's asked where they're going, and Cooper says, Bakersfield. And she's like, well, what about Mommy? Is she coming with us? On the radio, there's like, please be advised, a test of the civil alert broadcast system for Los Angeles County will commence in 10 seconds. I'm not really sure what the point of this was. He has to stop because there's this guy in like a Vault Tech truck is like pulled out in front of a house, like backing out, and it's like blocking the road. And the salesman dude kind of like looks at him, whatever. And then the test alarm goes off. It's very loud. People start panicking in the streets. The radio repeats that, it's a test that's going on. Cooper yells, he's like, it's just a test. And Janie seems scared, so he takes her in his arm. And then this like big transport helicopter thing flies by, and there's this big Vault Tech billboard with like him giving the thumbs up, and he just tells Janie it's okay. So I don't know. And then Vault 33, an engineer tells Betty Pearson, so she's now in charge, and she's kind of evil. Like this dude says, like they're blowing through the water reserves at a troubling rate, and stuff like that. Then Reg, this other guy, comes in asking if they've seen Norm. So Norm, I think, is Lucy's brother. And Betty says that Norm's been sent for a leadership exchange program to Vault 31, which isn't true. And he's like, well, everyone's, moving up in the world except me. And she says that, community has always done what it takes to survive. And she says that he should find an outlet, like maybe start a club or something. And she suggests, since they've been through a lot, maybe a club where people could talk about, any kind of feelings that they may be feeling. Then we see Stephanie, who's in charge at 32 as the overseer. And so Stephanie she's the blonde that was pregnant. Her husband was killed before she gave birth. She lost her eye during like the battle, whatever, and the outsiders came. So she's been promoted to overseer. She's some guy complained about how everything's the opposite what it used to be in the other vault or whatever like that. And when the guy leaves, she sees Chet in the waiting area. So Chet is Lucy's cousin, and so they hooked up, and then after she gave birth or whatever. So he's like with her baby. This one guy congratulates Chet, and he's like, he's on the family or something. He's like, we're not married. He's like, and it's not my family. And then Chet goes into Betty's office, and she looks up. She's like, oh, it's just you. And, he says that he was wondering if she got around to giving him a job assignment since everyone else is getting one. And he says that, he does have experience as a gatekeeper. And she's like, well, I've been busy. And, she needs someone to take care of the baby. And he's like, or she's like, oh, she also says like, and it's used to you. It's weird. She said, it's used to you. And he's like, but he is not my baby. Everyone is starting to act like he is. And she's like, Chet. He's like, would you at least consider giving him a name? Because the neighbors have started to call him Chet Jr. And she's like, well, let's go with that then. He's like, well, see, Chet Jr. was my father's name. It's a sort of personal area for me, having watched him die of starvation in the Weevil famine. And she's eating a like big orange with, she's like cutting with a knife. And she slams her knife in the desk. And she says, Chet, are we having an argument? And he, she's like clutching a knife, and he like smiles. He's like, Chet Jr. it is. And she chuckles. He like sighs, start to leave. And she's like, how are you with computers? And he like shakes his head. He's like, that was Norm's department. And she's like, maybe you can ask him in a terminal. She's like, great idea. I'll just send the other vault a message. So he leaves. She swivels her chair, starts tapping some buttons, gets a intervault communications disabled message, and she kind of curses. but instead of curse, she's like cod, ham, cheese, and rice. Then we see the brain on a Roomba in like this control room is trying to figure out, or I think it may have just the communication is disabled, and I don't know if the Roomba did it or what. Because then he's like, where are you? It's like, I'm coming for you. It's like, I'm coming for you. And he's like, I'll be right there. There's this mess. And then Norm MacLean is there catching like some dripping water. Drew is like, so you found some water, but you're out of food. So he's keeping Norm there because he saw all the there's like all these cryopods there. And there's like one for Kyle MacLachlan and everything like that. So he's like, starvation is a heck of a way to kick the bucket. It's like, I'm offering you a much more dignified solution to the one that you've chosen for yourself, son of Hank. So Hank is Kyle MacLachlan. He's like, getting your dad's cryopod. And he's like, I'm not going to be your prisoner. And the Roomba's like, you're already my prisoner. All you have to do is wait until the surface is safe to recolonize. Then we'll all head up for Reclamation Day. And Norm's like, and when is that exactly? He's like, when there's no one left on the surface to disagree with us. And he's like, or you could just let me go home. People are going to notice I'm missing. The room is like, oh, we have a protocol for everything, including when someone goes missing from a vault. Your overseer will handle it. No one is coming for you, buddy. It's like, maybe you'll be more reasonable once you're a little hungrier. Good luck finding something to eat when you can't see. And the lights go out. It's like, you're living my world. These 3 vaults are the products of decades of strategizing. The combined efforts of hundreds of the brightest pre-war minds with all the resources of functioning civilization. You're just some malcontent who wandered down the wrong corridor. What hope do you have against the greatest achievement in history of vertical integration? It's like, face it, son of Hank, you're in over your head. No one is coming to save you. And he goes over to like Hank's pod and just like stands there. Out in the wastelands, Lucy's like, you think my dad is going to lead you to your family, which means you think your family's still alive after 200 years, and somehow I'm the optimistic one? They come across this dead body with like the stomach section is just smashed. He's like, your daddy was always making new friends. And so it's like, wait, did Hank stomp on him in the armored suit? Because there's like big red footprints, going away from this guy. So it's like, wait, was the guy sleeping? Was he dead? Was he knocked out? I don't know. There's this little structure, like some cars and poles and like tent flaps or whatever, little shack. And there's a woman sleeping in a chair. And then Ghoul says that, she must have seen him pass. So he reaches for his gun, and she's like, we could just ask her. So she goes up. She's like, excuse me, hi there. I'd like one bowl of, she's like, fleece soup. And the sign's like, 2 caps for that. So it's like, okay. And she's like, I'm wondering, as she's making the getting the bowl ready for the soup. She's like, I'm wondering if you happen to see, and the lady scratches her head over the big pot. And like some stuff fleas, I guess, fall out of her hair. And she's like, I got some crackers if you want them. It's like, they're in my other pants. And Lisa's like, no, I'm okay. The lady hands Lucy the soup, and I'm assuming she pretends to take a sip. She's like, and she sets it down. She's like, so have you happened to have seen a man passing by in a sort of oversized outfit made of metal? And she's like, he took my son. And she's like, oh, I'm sure your son is, and Ghoul's like, he's dead. And she's like, no. She's like, we don't know that. And the lady's like, no, he's dead. Just my kind of luck. Rock Chucker owed me money. She doesn't say rock Chucker. It was like, rhymes with rock Chucker. And she's like, oh, I'm sorry for money. And she's like, he went that way. And she's like, thank you. And she's like, you find any money in that body, it's mine. So I don't know if it was her son that was stomped on. I have no idea. So they walk some more. And then Ghoul's like, question, what exactly you plan on doing once we find your daddy? He's like, you going to do it like usual, put a bullet in his ass, leave it to me to put one in his head? She's like, no, I'm going to bring him to justice. And he like chuckles. He's like, you think he deserves that? She's like, I was raised to believe that's what everyone deserves. So people know that how they can conduct themselves matters, and they don't give up hope. Like you say you did, but really, it's still in there. I mean, he's hoping his family's still alive. He's like, well, I had to break it to you, darling, but the way you was raised wasn't real. She's like, I know that, but look at your alternative. Guess I'm trying to lead by example. So then he sees like the Starlight Drive-In Theater, and sign says double feature, A Man and His Dog 3, starring Cooper Howard and like something else. I don't know if it was like Drunk Dracula or something. And Lucy like follows footprints into his building. In the past at a diner, Janie's like playing whack-a-mole, but it's actually whack-a-commie. And Cooper's talking to Kate Williams, so that's a lady from the Resistance or whatever who took Kyle MacLachlan out of the vault. She says, he says that they sat around a table and they talked about ending the world like they were talking about some new business strategy. Kate says that it sounds like he heard something interesting. He's like, what, you knew? And she's like, and now you do too. So what are we going to do about it? He's like, what do you mean, what are we going to do about it? It's like, I told you, I'm not a spy. I'm not a red. I'm a fudging Hollywood actor who likes horses and cars. And she's like, and you also happen to be famous. And fame is a rare kind of power. You get to sit in rooms that I can't, meet people that I could never. He's like, meet people like who? She's like, are you familiar with Robert House? He's like, yeah, I'm familiar with Robert House. Guy owns half of Las Vegas. And she's like, he's also building a privately owned missile system in Las Vegas with enough firepower to follow through on your wife's proposals. When the bombs drop, it'll be Robert House that presses the button. He's like, are you asking me to spy on the wealthiest man in America? She's like, not spy on him. And he's like, you want me to? She's like, your wife is going to Vegas next week to sell cold fusion to Robert House. Then he'll have everything he needs to press that button unless you stop him. Play nice with your wife and get on that trip to Vegas. And he's like, well, I'm going home. He's like, well, I still have one. So I guess she wants him to kill Robert House to stop him from dropping a bomb. Cooper is in the kitchen cooking. News is on, stuff about Robert House, the escalating war and everything. He said that the question might not be whether the world will end, but merely who will push the button. Barb arrives. She looks like she might have some regret. Cooper finishes his drink. She comes in the kitchen with a smile. He turns to her and he's smiling also. He's like, welcome home. Back in the present, Lucy walks into this building. Ghoul's right behind her. He's like, looks like Daddy took a detour. And she's like, never seen a vault like this before. He's like, par for the course in my experience. And she's like, you've been to a lot of vaults? He's like, uh-huh. And she's like, oh, you must like them. And he's like, every time I step foot in one of these concrete shoe boxes, I got to make peace with the fact that I might finally learn what happened to my wife and my daughter, whether they're alive, dead, or something far worse. And she's like, right, I know about the experiments. I've been to Vault 4. He's like, Vault 4 is the best case scenario. And she's like, well, to be fair, it was a little weirder than the one I came from. He's like, you think so? How many towns did they destroy down in Vault 4? He grabs her by the wristband and tells her to open, or to use her Pip-Boy, whatever, to open the elevator or something like that. She scoffs when she opens it. And she's like, you really think my dad's down there? He's like, the trail has him coming in. The trail has him coming out, too. And he picks up like a commie hat. And he's like, what I'm curious about is why he even came at all. He's like, ain't you a little curious too? So then they get in this big elevator thing. Back at Vault 33, Reg says, it's not your fault that you were born in a vault. Let me hear you say it. And so he's leading this group, and they repeat that. But then it doesn't quite go according to plan, because like, two want to talk about it's okay to like inbreed, something like that, because they don't have a lot of choices, and they thought it was going to be a meeting about whatever. So people are leaving, except for this one lady who ends up staying. The brain on Roomba says it won't be long now. Norm must be so hungry, and it asks, why is he torturing himself? Norm asks, what was his dad like? And the Roomba's like, ambitious? And he's like, then why was he here? And the Roomba's like, well, being one of Bud's buds was a highly coveted position back in the day. We had applicants from as far out as Fresno. Then the Roomba says that if he won't go into the cryopod, he could always let him inject him. And Norm's like, what does it do? And the Roomba's like, it kills you quick and painless. He's like, your body will rapidly decompose, turning into a dust that will get circulated through the ventilation system, ultimately making its way back into your cornfields back home. He's like, not so bad if you think about it. Then you won't have to deal with all the headaches of being alive. So you have two rational choices. Get in your dad's pod or die. And he's like, you're right. I have two rational choices, but plenty of irrational ones. He gets up. Roomba's like, what are you doing? He's like, 200 years of planning in order for everything to go just right? That seems like a lot of work, if you ask me. He's like, stay back, stay back. Norm kicks the Roomba, because the Roomba had this like a needle, like an arm extended with needle, and like breaks the syringe off or whatever. He's like, I think plans are slightly overrated personally. So he goes to the computer terminal. He says that he's thawing everyone. The Roomba's like, no, they're only supposed to come out once every 30 years. He's like, this isn't a plan, it's chaos. And Norm says, plans are hard, chaos is easy. So back at the other vault, the elevator doors open, Lucy and Ghoul exit. So they're in Vault 24. I don't know if I said that. There's dead bodies. Lucy asks, why would Vault Tech allow communists in one of their vaults? Because there's like a couple like communists at a terminal, like, wearing outfits or whatever. Ghoul's like, I wouldn't be so sure they did. They go in another room. There's another dead body watching like a propaganda film, and the speaker in the movie is like speaking Mandarin. And there's like this hypnotizing movie, like all these like weird, whatever shapes and stuff like that. Lucy's like, these are Americans. It's like the vault turned them into communists. And she goes to a computer terminal. It says data unavailable. And she's like, my dad removed the drive. And Ghoul steps on something, and they follow the trail. They see a box of sugar bombs, like cereal on the table. Behind them, someone's sitting in a chair, and it's like they're tied, they have long hair, and it's like dirty. He tilts his head up. He's like, well, hello there, sugar bomb. And Ghoul's like, looks like your daddy picked himself up a guinea pig. So maybe this is the lady's son, at the flea soup lady. And she's like, what do you want? He's like, I fix everything. And he's like, go home, sugar bomb, go home, go home, go home. And his head explodes. And Lucy gasps. They both got like splattered. Ghoul picks up one of the neck devices. He's like, you ever seen your daddy use one of these before? And she's like, no. He's like, you gonna take his advice? And she shakes her head. It's like, he won't stop hurting people. And Ghoul's like, yeah, no poop. He's like, well, she's like, well, then we better get going. So Ghoul leaves the bloody device on the table next to the cereal. Then there's like heavy footsteps, big doors open, Vault Tech facility. Hank's in armor. He has the hard drive in his hand, I think. He goes inside. There's like a row of desks. He powers up a terminal. Computer's like, you have 462,311 unread messages. He's like, well, let's get to it. So he makes some coffee, looks in a wardrobe department, puts on like a suit and tie, like a regular suit. Puts on a Pip-Boy. I don't know if I think he had one before. I don't know if he still had it. Goes to global comms, turns the radio, talks into a microphone. This is Hank McLean reporting for duty, sir. Nobody in Vault Tech knows I'm here, and nobody in Vault Tech knows much of anything anymore. Wanted to let you know I'm still alive. I hope you are too. I mean, I don't doubt that you are. You spent so much time calculating how to survive all possible contingencies. I've been keeping busy. I'm in Vegas these days, back in your old stomping grounds, actually trying to pick up where you all left off. And we see this other room where there's these little tables and microscopes and some trays. Bodies are missing their heads. He's like, looks like a couple of the vault experiments ran into some speed bumps. And I guess you can see that they have like neck devices on. So I guess those are the speed bumps. He's like, 24 made progress on a brain computer interface, this one miniaturization. He's like, what it all needs is integrating, but I'm confident that if I just roll up my sleeves, I can bring it all home for you. Then we can finally talk about my promotion. And he gets up, he sees this old yo-yo and he smiles. He's like, I'm going to complete the work that you started. And when this is all over, you will be begging me to help you. And he turns off the microphone. And that's the end of the episode. So I'm not really sure what Kyle MacLachlan, his plan is, because again, he was around back then before it all started, so he was probably trying to schmooze his way up to Robert House if Robert House was the man in charge. But then it's been like 200 years, and he's been living in a vault, going in a pod every once in a while. So I'm not really sure what's going on. And I'm trying to remember if they showed Robert House, if he's still alive or not. But yeah, so I don't know. So that was, I have to say, and I talked to my brother-in-law, because he's like, oh, you watching Fallout? And we didn't really comment much about it. I was like, yeah, I just watched the first episode so far. And he's like, yeah. So I can tell, and then we kind of got cut off or something else. I don't think he totally loved the this episode either. It feels like, I don't know, it's the first season was different, and this is just one episode, but I feel like the first season started off like a lot stronger, and this one is like, okay, now that we got a bunch of stuff established, so I guess we'll see where this is going to go. So I'll give it a shot. I'll keep doing it, mainly because there's nothing else on, but we'll see. Fingers crossed that I don't just drop this like I did during the first season. But I dropped it because they dropped all episodes at once, and I just didn't have time because there's too many other shows. But I am curious to see what's going to happen. So we'll have more. I'm hoping next week we'll do episodes 2 and 3. We'll see how that goes. No promises. Okay, then Fionna and Cake, Adventure Time, Fionna and Cake, season 2, episode 10, The Bear and the Rose. And man, this is. I'm so sad that this season is over. I hope we get another season. And I've been talking to my niece about this. She hasn't seen episode or season 2 because they don't have HBO Max because her dad canceled it and they're probably going to get it back or whatever. And they have like a big trip that they're going on now and everything. And I was like, you got to get it and everything. So she's a big fan of Adventure Time and Fionna and Cake, and she loves Huntress. I was like, dude, you are gonna love this season. I was like, we get the origin of Hunt. And I was like, no spoilers. I was like, we get the friggin' origin of Cosmic Owls. Like this season is insane. There's like so much craziness going on, and she's just like, whoa. I was like, I cannot wait for her to watch this. Like for Christmas, I gave her Fionna a Funko Pop, even though I bought one for myself, and I was like, I'm gonna get a second one, get it for her. The show's been, I've been loving it, and I'm assuming not everyone's like into the show. I just hope enough people are to get another season. I've been seeing like in the subreddits, some people are not happy about different things. I'm just like, man, you guys are complaining about everything. You know, they're like, oh, there's too many human stuff or too much this but it's like, I feel like there's been, and yeah, there kind of maybe has been too many storylines, and you kind of got like 3 things going out throughout the season, which could be a little confusing and maybe not what everyone, but I think it's great. I will admit that, yeah, that the human stuff, the Gary and Marshall stuff, that's fine. You know, I get why it's there, but you know, for me, all the ooh stuff and what's going to happen with Finn, you know, that stuff's great. Seeing all the Huntress stuff, and then just, you know, Fionna trying to navigate through her life. I mean, that's just been a huge thing. So I definitely hope we get more. So it starts off, we get and again, this is the last episode. So there's a flashback to a younger adult Finn. He's helping like his mom out. So his mom, Minerva, is no longer, she's been digitized. So she's in this like floating city, and there's a bunch of Minerva bots that are like doing all this stuff. So he's an adult, but he's not as massive as he is now. But you know, he's not a kid. You know, he does have the beard and the Jake tattoo and all that. And you know, she has all the robots that look like her, and she tells him, you know, because she talks through like this big monitor or whatever, that he's such a deer to pop over and deal with the burger mites. So there's these little like robot hamburgers with mouths and like fries for legs, and they're like chomping on stuff underwater. And he's like, anything to protect your data, Mom. And she's like, She's like, I've set you up on a date for Princess Bubblegum's biennial bubblegum gumbo jamboree. And she's human this time. Definitely not a Minerva bot in a wig. He's like, I told you, I've already got a girlfriend, kinda. And she's like, of course, Huntress. I've heard so much about this young lady, but I've never met her. And Finn's like, she's just not very social. And she's like, I see. And he's like, and she lives in different worlds sometimes, like higher planes of consciousness, and she doesn't have a phone. So Mom's like, I just don't want you to waste good years of your life, or the good years of your life. You deserve someone who wants to go out dancing and eat stew with you. I want you to be happy, you know? It's like, I can't remember what gumbo tastes like. And he's like, it's okay, Mom. And then this like giant burger mite pops out of water. Fight me for this land, warrior. So Finn charges. He gets out like this like battle cry, and then the burger's like, oh, time out. He punches it in the mouth, and it had like pickles on the top of the roof of its mouth. They go flying through like the top of its head or whatever. So then it cuts to now in the floating city. They're all gathered with, you know, Finn's unconscious old withered body. The other princesses are there. Bemo's there. Lady Rainicorn. A couple of the Minerva bots scan the body. Bemo has like a digital tear on the screen. Minerva on the screen says, my poor boy. And Princess Bubblegum's like, Finn is one of a kind. He should be preserved at all costs. And Minerva, she's like, if only I had a copy of his living will, but I kept burning them. And then the Minerva bot's like, we have located the techno coffin. So Minerva on the screen grimaces. And Peebee's like, this way Finn will live forever, like me and Marcy. Nothing wrong with that. And she's like, I don't know. And Peebee's like, either we succeed and preserve some version of Finn, or we fail and put him out of his misery. Isn't that better than nothing? She's like, yes, all right. And then they're like, test one. An orange is put in the digital coffin. It shuts and orange is smushed, and juice like seeps out the side. And they're like, seems good, yeah? And all the princesses like groan like, ugh. And then Peebee's like, send out word. This is Finn the Human's last day. And I'm just like, oh man. Gary and Marshall see the train wreck at the sweet spot lot. So like, Marshall's van's lying sideways on Gary's smashed trailer. Gary gasps and he pulls out his precious mixer and bowl or something like that. And he's like, after all that work we did. And Marshall's like, it's just evil. And Gary's like, what kind of low-down varmint could commit such a cruel act? And Marshall's like Queenie, it had to be her. And then Fiona appears out of a portal. And he's like, we can't prove it though. Marshall picks up a stick. He's like, we'll get proof. And she's like, it wasn't Queenie. And they're like, Fiona, where have you been? And she's still wearing like the grass shaggy coat that she got from Fern. And Fiona's like, I wrecked the place. And her jaws drop. And Fiona's face like scrunches up. She's like, I didn't mean to. I was just so angry, and I'll do anything to make things, okay, please. And Gary's like in tears. Marshall's like scowling. They both turn and walk away. And Fiona walks through like the broken fence. And she's like, you got to try harder, dummy. And then you can hear Hunter talking. He's like, you could be way more angry. And Fiona's like, when I saw them kissing, it's like my mind went blank. Fiona obviously still wants him. And he's like, I don't think Fiona knows what she wants. And Felix, he shouldn't have hurt you like that. And she's like, no, but I'm not sure that's what really upset me. And she thinks back to seeing them kissing like backstage at the benefit concert. She's like, I really thought Fiona and I could have been friends. And Fiona's like hiding behind a trash can. And she's like, but she just wanted him back. And Hunter's like, I don't know. Some things might not be so black and white. And she's like, where's Gary and Marshall at? And he's like, let's check the trailer. Oh my God. And Fiona tiptoes away. So then we see Huntress. She managed to put together all the pieces of the shattered like portal thorn thing from the last episode, because she's like on a big tree branch or something. She's trying to get back to Ooh, but then it just crumbles again. Witch Wizard laughs. She's all tied up. And she's like, give up, twig ass. And in a sing-song voice, she's like, you're trapped. And in a normal voice, she's like, well, stay here and suckle on a green magic tea, growing ripe with power. And Huntress like shoves a mushroom in her mouth to shut her up. She's like, I already know another way to get out of here. So she does like a flip and a cartwheel, and she like stands in her head, closes her eyes, and her antlers, whatever, like seep into the ground and like on the branch thing. And she taps like into the energy of like some other stuff, and we see like a seed in the middle of like a wreck street sprouts, and there's like a pinkish version of Huntress, and a couple vampires like swoop by. They're like, new blood left itself wide open, and they both laugh. And she's like, you won't last long. Her hands like extend into like two long branches, like impales both of them. They turn to dust. And as she looks at her hands, she's like, this isn't right. Her eyes go white, and then the body just kind of like slumps over. We see another seed sprouts, like a greenish version, like underwater, and she floats up, and she sees like this big ice god or something like that, and she's like, nope. Eyes go white, and she just like fades back. Another seed sprouts, like has like orangish hair, and this boy sees her. It almost looks like Finn World. He's like, Mom, you came back. And she's like, crap. And then she fades like back, like leaving her husk there, and the boy's jaw drops and hangs. And then there's like a smaller blue-haired version pops up like a nursery with like baby Cinnabon and like a baby Jake in a onesie dancing on a dead lich or squeaky toy or something like that. And then another seed sprouts somewhere like not fully formed, like chokes, lack of oxygen. I don't know if it's in space or something like that. Regular Huntress is just like grunts. And then another seed sprout looks like she's actually in Ooh, and she hears cheering. A crowd's gathered outside the castle, and Princess Bubblegum's like, rejoice, candy citizens, the champion of Slime Kingdom approaches. The closed caption lists as the champion. What time is it? Huntress gasps, and then it's like, slime time. There's a Finn with like a long, twisted arm. It almost looks like those like gooey things where you slap it against a wall or like a piece of paper and it's like pulls it back. I don't know what you call those things. Get them out like vending machines. So it has a big slime arm riding this big green blob with like slime princess, and then they kiss, and their lips are touching, and you see a little like tongue action. It's like whatever, and he's like, the slime is the best part, baby. And Huntress yelps, and then she retreats back. She falls over from her headstand, whatever. Witch Wizard laughs, like, and she's like, staying here with me after all. And she's like, none of them landed in ooh. And Witch Wizard laughs and then stops. And then I don't know if she realized that she's never going back. So all of them, everyone's gathered around Finn, including Jake's kids. They're there too. Princess Bubblegum's like, we're doing the right thing. And then I forget what it's not Peppermint Butler, Peppermint Kid, whatever, like reborn. He's like, there's only a slight possibility that if the upload fails, his soul will be trapped forever in limbo. That's cool. And Simon's like, for the record, I'm firmly against this. Is this preserving him or insulting him? Insulting life itself? And he looks at Minerva. No offense. And then she like gives it's like the backwards peace sign, which is really like in British. It's like F you, everything. Because he's like, no offense. And then Banana Guard starts yelling, announcement, announcement, announcement. This sad day would not be complete without Finn's closest family member. They all gasp, and you see like Shadow coming down. Is like, wait, is that Jake coming in? It can't be. It's not. It's Nepter, the little robot microwave pie, the never-eating pie-throwing robot. Creator, your favorite son is here. Please eat something. A pie is like flung, and it lands like right on Finn's face. And so everyone, Prince Bubblegum's like, everyone, look here. Once Finn is uploaded, his mind will inhabit this brand new indestructible robot bod. And there's like this robot. It's weird because it has like ball feet, which doesn't seem like it'd be that sturdy, but it's like this big honking thing, and there's like some kind of stripes on its arms, almost like candy colored, whatever. BMO walks up, sick. And then the robot cracks a whip, and BMO's like like yelps and cries. Poor BMO. Huntress sits. She's upset. She like grunts. She's like, stupid. And she like looks at her hands, her scar on her wrist. She's like, the heart was a conduit. And she grunts. She's like, but with my original body destroyed, I have no connection to ooh anymore. And she leaps over and looks at Witch Wizard's hand. She's like, you can tap into the heart. And Witch was like, but I hate you. And she's like, you need to connect through the undergrowth. And she scoffs. She's like, there's no point. It's like, you killed a heart. And Hunter's like, can you feel its presence even a little? And she's like, I told you there's, and then a green glob like kind of flickers on the screen for a second. She's like, wait, there's something. Huntress grabs her. She's like, stay with it. And there's like a heart beating. And she's like, show me, please. And Witch Wizard puts out her palms so they can put them together. Their fingers clasp, and there's like a big green glow. Energy ripples throughout both their insides, and then they like meld into like the branch that they're on, like the energy particles. And then the energy goes up a tree, expands out, energy flickers, and then they're off. But it's like, wait, are they too late? Because a couple of Minerva bots lift Finn's body onto the digital coffin, and his back is still green and crusty from his wound. Prince Bubblegum and Marcy are singing a song, and the lid starts to shut. And this is literally, I had to stop watching this because the episode came out Christmas Day, and I was about to head out to the families and everything. So as the fin starts closing, you see Finn's body's getting smushed and like green liquid start coming out. I'm just like, I don't know if I can watch this. I was like, I don't want to see Finn's body get destroyed. Even if he's gonna be uploaded digitally, it's like you can't do that. He's like, but he's already like old man Finn, and he's like dying. And I was just like, oh man. So I stopped right there. So the download begins. So it's like he's starting to get smushed, and then it's like close. So he's got to be smushed, right? The download's beginning on the screen, and then the coffin starts glowing bright, and Princess Bubblegum's like, something's wrong, get him out. And then she and Marceline are trying to pry it open, and then it's just like it busts. And then green thorny plants grow out. Huntress is there. A portal appears above her head, and Witch Wizard's like thrown out. The room gasps at like Huntress standing there, like glowing. And she closes her eyes, and the light retracts, and she looks in horror. She's like, Finn. So he has green ooze dripping around his head, like under his cap. And she pulls him out onto the floor. And she's like, oh no. She puts her fingers by his head, and her like finger tendrils like going. She's like, come on. And she's like, I need more life. And then Mimo comes over, drops his knees, take mine. He like pries open his front cover, and you see like his insides, his face, digital anguish. Huntress looks like a little sad or touched by his gesture, maybe. And she's quiet. She's like, no. And she exhales. She puts her hand up to reach for something, and then the other husks of herself that grew from the seeds in the other worlds, they like awaken, and they each like extend their hand, and energy life force is like gathering up. Huntress like strains, the colored tendrils like come out of her fingers, they go into Finn. She's like, come on. The other like husks like dry up and crumble, and Finn's body starts getting bigger and beefier. Huntress like hugs him in relief. Princess Bubblegum falls to her knees. She's like, oh Glob. She's like, I almost crushed him. Marceline like, hugs her and like comforts her. She's like, I think you need a break. And Huntress like, she eases Finn down, but his face is blank. And she's like, Finn? And Peppermint like, yeah, that soul is gone. Minerva's like, the upload was interrupted. His consciousness isn't in the cloud. In the other place where Cake stayed with Worm, like they're in the pizza box meditating, the red pain balls are dropping. Cake sighs. She's like, no portal jumping, no drama, no trying to be something that I'm not. I can just be. And Worm's like, you're welcome to stay here as long as you want. There's room for 2 in this pizza box. And she's like, really? Any toppings I want? Then Huntress, her astral form, zips in. She's like, I need you to get a message of Fiona. And Cake stands, and to Worm, she's like, It's like, I'm sorry, but my girls need me. And he's like, it's not all or nothing, Cake. So they hug. And she's like, hold my spot. So it's like, he's like, dude, you can leave. You can come back. You don't have to stay here forever. It's not like, So Cake goes after Huntress. Felix is standing in his tower apartment on balconies looking over the city. Fiona's like with him. I'm like, are you serious? And Felix like, Fennel said she needed time to think. It's like, that seems bad. And Fiona's like, we really hurt her. He's like, yeah. She's like, I've been pursuing you for the wrong reasons. Like, I wanted to prove something or force a happy ending, but I don't think we're good for each other. He's like, you sure? And he like squints his eyes and gives her a long look. I was like, are you serious, dude? And she looks back at him. She's like, I hate that I want you so much. And she pushes him away with both hands. She's like, good luck, Felix. And so it's like, dude, you're a piece of work. And he's like, I like the grass cape. Makes you look like a samurai. And then from a distance here, Fiona! A portal opens like from some flowers like in a planter. She's like, Cake, what's wrong? She's like, Finn needs you. She's like, what do I do? And Cake's like, she said to get up in his dome and look for clues. She's like, okay. So she sits and closes her eyes, puts her hands on her temples. She's like, Finn. And there's blackness. And then there's like different colored like fins doing stuff, like running, like fighting stance, grunting, getting stabbed. And he's like, I listened to my hero heart. Then there's dead, drippy Finn. There's regular dream Finn. Who are you? And then Fiona falls flat on her face in a greenish like backdrop. And she's like in her Adventure Time outfit. And she landed on some bug. He's like, milady, to be smashed by such a beauty. But then he springs back. He's like, an honor for Bellamy Bug. And she's like, sorry, I'm still new at this. And she looks around. She's like, this isn't Finn's mind. She's like, gracious, no. This is Finn's imagination land. Still, the daintiest part of that indelicate old brute. She's like, can you help me find his mind room? I'd be delighted. Up, up, up. And he's like, close your eyes. Imagine you're walking straight ahead. And she's like walking. Imagine you're running. Imagine you're paddling a canoe. He's like, now imagine you're in Finn's mind room. Farewell. So it works. She's in his mind room, just like the shape of his head. But it's pretty bare. There's just like a drawing of Finn, like taped to the wall. There's a TV set on. And her hat is gone, but she's still in her blue outfit. And there's just like static on the TV. She hears like paper rustling, and she goes to the poster, looks at it. There's like a hole behind it, and she's like surprised because she sees a tunnel. She's like, Finn? There's like a little. She goes down this like tunnel. There's like a door at the end. It's like a smaller door, and then there's kind of like not quite patchwork quilt, but like some colors, whatever. She goes in there. She goes in this building. She crawls around because it's a little small. There's another door with like a lamp above this wire. It's a weird wire, whatever. She goes in. She like runs. She slides down the pole. There's like all these different like backgrounds, long stairs. She falls through a couple levels. She lands on this chair in the library. It's like we see it's like shaped like his heart. So there's a ladder that goes on to another level, and then the stairs that go to this another room with like a fireplace, and then there's like a dark level beneath that. So there's like 4 different rooms. So I don't know if it's like the 4 chambers of his heart. She climbs down to the fireplace level. Ollie, Ollie, oxen free, but he's not there. And there's a little rug. She lifts the rug. There's like a trap door. and it's pretty small, the lower level. There's like maybe 4 trunks or so. Like one says F plus J. You see like a sword. There's like a stuffed bear. There's a couple other things, whatever. She opens one, and it's like OG Finn. It's like regular Finn, like Adventure Time, like Finn. And he's like hiding inside. She's like, found you. And he like kind of moves back, tries to close the lid. She's like, you want to be alone? He's like, no. And she's like, you were the gut voice. It's like, there's a lot of people waiting for you up there. He's like, then why do I feel so dump trucks? No one loves me like Jake. And she's like, Huntress loves you. And he's like, she said that? And she's like, well, not with like words. So then he covers himself. There's like a blanket hanging on the edge of it. He like grabs that and he closes the trunk. And she sighs. It's like, Fiona's like, she's such an idiot. And Finn's like, she's a wise wizard. I'm a dumb baby man. And she scoffs. She's like, the only dumb baby man here is me. He's like, and I've seen Huntress fight like hell to save you. I know she's as expressive as a tree stump, but underneath, she's as scared of messing up as anyone. And Finn's like, are you scared? And she's like, yeah, but mostly I think I need to chill my beans. Huntress made me realize I don't have to fix things. I just have to actually listen to my friends to communicate better. And when it matters, show them I care. He like pops his head out of the trunk. Huntress helped you to communicate? Fiona's like, I learned from her awful example. And he like chuckles. He's like, yeah. So she extends her hand and he takes it. Then in the Finn head, 2 eyes and like almost smile form on the wall. In Ooh, Finn's eyes go from like gray blank to just like black. His vision focused and he sees Huntress. Oh, and she's like kind of like purplish, by the way. She's got like pink flowers in her hair and like longer like antler branches things, whatever. And there's tears in her eyes. And she's like, Finn? He's like, hi, babe. And he looks at her long like tree antlers or whatever. He's like, did you do something with your hair? She pulls him into a hug. Everyone cheers. Minerva cries tears of joy. She's like, my babies. He's like, let's go. Simon does a big leap, taps his heels together. Yippee! PB is still sobbing. Marceline takes a crown off her head and puts it on Pep because I guess she needs a break. Huntress holds like Finn in her arms. They smooch. Lady Rainicorn is flying overhead like outside the dome. Then in Fiona world, Cake is in her cat form. She goes to M. Crom's body shop. Or actually, no, she not her cat form. She was in her humanoid form. And she's like, hey, I'm sorry I ran off after we kissed. And he opens his mouth, like, and like waves his hand. She's like, your breath? Oh, no. You taste like oats, baby. And like, that's fine. She's like, it's just that and she like sighs. She's like, I still really like you, but it didn't feel right for me. And he like nods. And she's like, also, I'm not a babe. And she changes her regular like form. She's like, maybe not even a cat. She's like, I'm this. So he writes on it's not like a etch-a-sketch or something like that. And he wrote, it's like, you're magic. Then he shakes and writes like, friends. And she's like, aw, friends. He extends his hand, but she stretches her legs and gives him a big hug. She's like, you're awesome. And he smiles. So, and there's been a lot of talk on the subreddits about these two. It's like, okay, he's a human and she's a cat. Is that just weird? Or is it because she's a magic cat, so that makes it okay? So she's not really a cat, but she was a cat. In this world, she was a cat, but she's not a cat. And is she a magic cat, or is she something else? And the question is, the other question is, did Emkron, who is a human in this world, Emkron's supposed to be like this world's version of Lady Rainicorn. The question is, did Emkron know that she wasn't human? Because whenever she was with him, she'd be like in her humanoid, but she's still clearly a cat. So it's like, did he know she was a cat? Did he care she was a cat? Because then it's like, okay, you got a human and an animal. That's not okay. But it's a cartoon. But it's not that it's a magic world, because in this world there is no magic. So it's like, did he know? Did he not know? It's just really weird. So it's maybe for the best, but some people are like, oh, they did Emkron dirty. But it's like, it might be for the best. I don't know. And then people are like, oh, he's smiling because he's relieved. And other people are like, no, he's smiling because he really cares about her and, he's dealing with it. So then Gary's like, we'll hit the rest tomorrow. So he and Marshall enter the apartment. Then he sniffs. Gary's like, hot dogs? Fiona's in the kitchen cooking. Fiona? And she's like, I climbed through the window. I made you dinner. And she made like a cake, but spelled out sorry with like sausages and pepperoni. I think it was a cake because there's like frosting. He's like, oh, Fiona, And he sighs. He's like, I can see you're trying to make amends. It's just not enough. And she's like, oh, I understand. So she starts to climb up on the counter to go out the window. He's like, but no one has made food for me in a long time. And Marshall has his hand on Gary's shoulder, and he's like smiling. He's like, yeah, I can't cook. So Gary, then we see Gary takes like a fork full of cake, and it looks like there's like pepperoni inside or something. He like gasps. He's like, wow, that's really bad. So Fionna like whimpers. She's like, we'll bake together next time, okay? And she's like, next time. He nods, and she sniffles. Her eyes tear up. Bubba, I'm so sorry. Both of you. I've been such a butt guy. I know I should have listened to you all about your mom, Marshall. I didn't know how deep it went. And he's like, we're all messed up, Fee. It's like, but we don't have to fly solo. She's like, yeah, I wish I'd gotten to hear your new songs, though. He's like, well, actually, I recorded a demo, if you're interested. She's like, yes! Then she runs up to the radio station window, slams the tape against the window, her hands against the window. She's like, you play, and dude gives a thumbs up. Then we hear a guitar start. We see Worm and Cake flying. Fiona's like talking, apologizing to Fennel. Fennel has a smile on her face. We see Prismo is passed out, stubble on his face. Scarab's there, but like in shadow form. Taps him on the shoulder. Prismo opens his eyes and smile. And then at the lot, there's like a coming soon sign with like the boys' faces. Then Hunter and Fennel are like digging a hole for a plant. Fiona's like hammering with Marshall. Cake is in the form of like a big crane. So Cake came back. Gary's like directing her where to put some pieces of wood. There's like a good sized building that's like starting to get built. And then at the magic school, Huntress is talking to the class, including like a scowling witch wizard. She's there, and the catchy magic needs not require exploitation. If you can shut your brain enough to tap it, and she hums out she's holding a dry withered carrot, and she hums at it, and it changes like a fresh looking one. Then it enlarges. One student, I don't know if I remember the student has a name or not. It's like a one-eyed student. She's like, why does Wizard need gardening tips? And Pep's like, this is good stuff. It's like, come graduation, I have a kingdom to feed. And this other student's like, yo, look at the beef slab. And Huntress really juiced him up. Seriously. And then she sweats looking at shirtless. He's shirtless, but he has like an apron on. And Neptur is like welding his arm. Like, finish, Poppy. He's like, hup, axe mod. And there's like an axe on his head. It starts chopping wood. He's like, it came to me in a dream, because he had that in a dream episode. And the witch wizard's like, why is he here? And someone's like, he's gonna blab all our Gnostic secrets. Huntress towers over them. The heart belongs to all of us. And with her back turned, witch wizard pulls on her eyelid. She's like, eh. And Huntress like, with these, holding up her fingers, we can suck someone's life juices or practice empathy. And outside, I'm pretty sure it's Spirit Dream Wizards, like, the straight line teaches the curve to bend. And then he sees Astrid, the little girl who loved Fionna and Cake, like in the first episode or whatever, who we've seen throughout. She's dressed like Fionna. She's running through the forest, and he like smiles. At the sweet spot. So there's like a 3-story building where Gary's trailer was. There's another building like on the side with like a balcony on the top. There's like, you see that there's a garden. The balcony has like a tea time stand, whatever. Simone, the ice cream vendor that knew Marshall when he was a kid, she's like playing keyboards while Marshall's playing his guitar. Inside, Gary's like giving cooking lessons at class. Like you see the skater girls, they made like helmeted gingerbread men with like helmets and rollerblades. The little rapper boy, he comes up to Marshall. He's like, your music, it makes me feel real good. And Marshall's like, well, come jam with me. He's like, hell no, man. And Simone laughs. I don't know what that, if he's like, are you kidding? Because, I mean, he's in a recording studio and Marshall's still playing. I don't know. I'm not sure what that was about. Inside, Cake is in a form of horse, like kind of bucking up. LSP, M-Crom, and like 2 others are sketching her. So I guess they do like art classes there too. Fionna walks in. DJ Flame is giving like a DJ demo, and there's like 4 kids with him. And he like, push this button. Kid pushes it, like makes out like a fart noise, and they laugh. And then Hunter and Fennel are sitting on a sofa nearby, and she asks Hunter, she's like, do you think Fionna would take fencing class with me? So it would be fun to spar. And Hunter chuckles like, she'd be good at it. Fionna comes up to them. Fennel's like, oh, hey, Fionna, we were just talking about you. So Fionna sits next to her. Fennel leans on Fionna, and Fionna sighs in relief. But then Queenie's peeking through the window, and she grunts. But then somehow Fiona's now standing behind her. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. And she's like, you could invest in this place, make something lasting, be part of the community. Queenie like scoffs, she's like, you're off your nut, Campbell. And she scurries off and runs down the sidewalk. And then we see Fiona walking through the city, and she stops to smells a rose. And then there's like a fence, like up, like blocking a street. The signs there's on the fences like, stop, stay out, Abadir property, dead end. And she's like, Then she looks at the street sign at the corner where the fence is like Plum Street and Peach Street. And she thinks back to that message given to her, go beyond the end of the peach. So she goes up, she kicks the fence down. She's like, just tons like rolling, like green hills, mountains in the background, the sun setting. She's like, oh my life. So she goes out in the grass, and then Cake playfully like kind of jumps on her head. Hunter and Fennel like run up to follow, and then Fiona had the rose like tucked in her ear. She puts it in Hunter's shirt pocket, takes Fennel's hand. They run out in the field, and then Cake's like, "Come on, Chicky, like move those buttons, baby." And then the camera pans back, and then you see the city is just like a small square, like on a continent, and we see like the planet, but the thing is, like, when you see the planet, there's like a twinkle in the sky. Is that supposed to be the comet that crashes to Ooh? I don't even know. And that's the end. But then during the credits, Marshall's playing his guitar, like leaning against the wall. He's got his like guitar case open, and I don't know if this is now or if this was in the past. So he's singing, and then you see like there's a few bills and coins in his case. Someone throws some like weird shaped like purple coins with like runes or something drawn on them, and Marshall stops and gasps. It's Hudson Abadir. It's Marceline's dad. He's like, nice song, kiddo. Got a minute? And then some crows fly by, and then it's like over. So what does that mean? I don't know. Yeah, I have no idea why there was a picture of him like out in the hall at Nina as his mom's office. So I don't know what that means. But hopefully we'll get more and there'll be something. But that is the end of Adventure Time. So hopefully you've been enjoying this, look back or whatever you want to call it. If not, then you won't have to hear about it for a while, hopefully. All right, now Stranger Things, Season 5, Episode 5, Shock Jock. The rest of the season, the rest of the episodes are out. But see, look how perfectly it worked out. I was doing one episode per week, and we're caught up. We are right on time, right at the point where Episode 5 is out. But I'm sure if you are diehard, you probably watched them all. And now I need to avoid spoilers for the next month as I try to catch up. So we got this final episode. So with Episode 5, we're only going to do Episode 5 this week. We're going to make it last. So while you watch, if you watch all the episodes, and then I'm going to be like, I still have a new episode. I was talking to my sister-in-law about this, and she's like, no, I'm going to watch them all and everything like that. I was like, yeah, but because she's like, I like to binge. I was like, well, you can binge at the end when they're all out. She's like, oh, but then I got to worry about spoilers. I was like, I got to worry about spoilers. And I went and talked about my thing. It's like when all the episodes drop, no one talks about the show after that. Because you watch, like a week from now, no one's going to really talk about Stranger Things anymore because everything's out there. Versus if you did it one per week, this episode, there is a massive cliffhanger. And as I was watching it, I'm like, holy crap, credits start rolling, and then bloop, it automatically jumps to the next episode. So it's like you don't even get 30 seconds to process what's going on. If you have an automatic, it jumps right to the next episode, and then you're just like, oh wait, everyone's okay. I don't understand. And this is the problem with the world. It's all Netflix's fault. No one has any patience. Everyone wants everything boom, boom, boom right away. Right. So it's the aftermath of the last episode. Will's on his knees. Vecna repeats his voice like, do you know why I chose them? Why I chose them to reshape the world? So, it's when he's talking to Will in the past. It is because they are weak, easily broken. And we see like Demogorgons. They're dragging kids down the street. So even though Will accomplished that, he still didn't save the day. I thought he did, but not quite, because Lucas still gets swatted, and then the two kids are staring at the demo, and there's like one behind him still. He's like, easily reshaped, controlled, the perfect vessels. So the demos tear into the back of Murray's truck where kids are stashed there. Joyce grabs Will arms and he looks at her. She like hugs him, like lifts him to his feet, and she's like, I don't understand. How did you? Mike runs up. He's a sorcerer. He's a real life, honest to God sorcerer. And he hugs Will. He's like, you did it. You really did it. And Mike's like, I know, Derek, Mary, Glenn. He's like, no, not just them. The others. They didn't make it out of Hawkins. And we see like Murray walking around a truck. Robin's just sitting on the ground, like near tears. He's like, I could have helped them fight if I acted sooner, but I was too late. Like Murray sees like a scar from where the demos must have made an exit back to the upside down, like in the back of the truck. And he's like, and now he's got all of them. And Lucas is apparently fine. Well, actually, he's not quite fine, but he's standing up. He got swatted, and it's like, okay, did they hit him or slash him with their big claws? But he's looking at like the scar on the wall, and he like punches the wall. And Will's like, all of them, all 12, we failed. And Joyce is like, no. And then helicopters approach, and Mike's like, the tunnels, like Radio Shack. So the demos pull the kids, put the kids in their positions, like against whatever wall, wherever they're at. The tube things get thrust in their mouth, and then particles start pumping into them. Derek opens his eyes. He sees bright blue skies. He sits up. There's like 10 other kids, I think. Henry's voice is like, your memory of what happened, of how you came to be here, might be foggy. And then he brings them to the house, and one of the kids like, Holly. I think it was Jenny. I don't know. Remember her name. He's like, the monsters, they tried to take you, but I saved you just in time. And we see like Max is like watching from the woods. And he's like, this place, my home, is now your home too, your sanctuary. As long as you do not venture into the woods where the monsters live, you will be safe here. Now, I know many of you are wondering when the rest of your friends and family will join us here. It's like the difficult truth is there's more at stake than just the lives of your loved ones. I don't wish to frighten you, but I believe you are brave enough to know the truth. And evil darkness is spreading across not just Hawkins, but the whole world. And soon it will be too late to stop it. You can think of this darkness like the black thing in your book. Just like the black thing threatened Meg's family, so does the darkness threaten yours. And he's talking about A Wrinkle in Time. He's like, but I believe I have found a way to defeat this darkness. And one girl's like, how? He's like, I have traveled far and long beyond our dimension. In my travels, I discovered another world, a world far from Earth. This world is much like ours, only good, free of monsters and darkness. It is a light which brings me to the true reason why you have been chosen. You are not like other children. Like Meg, you are special. You have dormant powers in here, he points to his temple. And I believe if we work together, we can awaken those powers, channel our energy, and draw this new world to ours. As the light reaches the darkness, the light will expel the darkness. Your loved ones will be saved, and you will be heroes. The girl smiles. Holly raised her hands. Are you going to leave again to bring more special kids here? And then he's like, poor Holly. She was the first one chosen, and she was left here all alone. But don't worry, I won't be leaving you, any of you, ever again. And Holly's kind of like, oh crap. But for now, eat and play, and most importantly, rest, because tomorrow it begins. And the kids actually start applauding for some reason, and Holly joins in, but she's clearly concerned. Dr. K, Ackers, whatever, and the other soldiers, they bust down his big vault door at the end of the secured hall. The other kid prisoners still there, 8, but 11 Hopper are gone. Ackers starts talking down to soldiers, he's like, you said that no one's been in or out. He's like, what are you saying? They just vanished into thin air? And dude's like, I don't know, sir. And Ackers yells at everyone. He's like, I want every square inch of this building checked, every room, vent, access panels. Let's go, move. So they leave. Then Kay decides to turn back and look in the room. 8's hands twitching. And Kay reaches out and then waves her hand through her. And she's not there. So she's just an illusion. And she storms out. So 8 is actually in the back of the truck that they stole. Her nose is bleeding and she wakes. And 11's like, are you okay? And 8's like, I lost it. It's like, we're too far. Hopper's like, it's okay. We're far enough away. It's like, they're not going to catch up with us now. And he says, that's a hell of a trick you pull back there. He's like, you might call it bitchin'. He's like, isn't that the vocabulary you taught Elle? And she's like, I'm a bad influence. And he's like, yeah, join the club. And 11 like looks at him, then back in the back of the truck where his like bomb vest that he was going to use, and she's like stares forward. Mike, Will, and Joyce go down the tunnels. They find Lucas. He's lying against the wall. So he did get slashed. He's not hurt. There's like a single cut in his chest. His shirt's like a little red. He's like, oh, it's just a scratch. And Joyce tells Mike, she's like, first aid. So he takes out some bandages from a backpack. She asks Lucas to lift his shirt, and they all like kind of wince. Will Sputter, he's like, oh, it's not too bad. And Mike's like, he says it's just enough to give like a badass scar. And Lucas says he's sorry he couldn't protect the kids. Will's like, you did everything you could. It's like, you fought. You risked your life. Nice swing, by the way. And Lucas is like, you saw? And Will nods, and Mike's like he's more than just saw. So they start walking. Lucas is like, so demos floating, limbs snapping, dying, that was all you? It's like, you know what that means, right? You're like Will the Wise, but for real. He's like, not really. And Mike's like, no, he's more like a sorcerer than a wizard. And Lucas is like, yeah, but you get what I'm saying. It's like, this totally changes the game. We got our second L. And Will's like, I'm not like a second L. It's like, I don't have powers. I'm just siphoning. I'm stealing Vecna's. And to do that, I have to be near the hive mind. And Vecna's not coming back. They came for the kids, and he's got them all. He has his vessels. He's like, vessels? He's like, yeah, that's what he called them. He says, vessels for reshaping the world. And Mike says that he hopes that Will's theory is wrong. And Joyce's like, what theory? And Lucas says, November 6th. He's like, the day that all this started is the day it ends. They reach the ladder to exit the tunnel. Joyce like holds Will back for a second, and she says she wonders if there's a way they can jack back into the hive mind and access his powers again. He's like, well, it's not possible unless the hive mind is close. And she says that she knows, but what happened tonight, none of them thought that was possible either. She's like, what if this time he doesn't use his powers against his army? What if he uses them against Vecna? He didn't fail tonight. What he did was extraordinary. And she's like, you said so yourself. Vecna chose you because he underestimated you. I think we all have. It's like, I know I did. It's like, that is a mistake I will never, ever make again. But I'm willing to bet everything that he does, that it will be his last mistake that SOB ever makes. Hopper and the girls make it to the house where Harrington's BMW is stuck in a wall, and he makes some comment about the car or whatever. 11 asks, is like, is this what you're going to do? Act like nothing's happening? Make jokes? And he just like starts walking, and she's like, you find Vecna, you come home. That was always a plan. That was never real, was it? He's like, of course it was real. She's like, you're lying. And just like how you lied about my trainings. You can have me on your cause because your plan was to kill Vecna alone and die. He's like, hey, listen to me. What happened today was different. The kryptonite, you couldn't fight. He's like, I didn't have a choice. He's like, and the bomb? He's like, the bomb, it was a failsafe. A failsafe no one knew about. I saw in your eyes tonight, you're planning to die, and you always were. 8 interrupts because she says that, it's like, weren't your friends supposed to be here? Yeah. The place is empty, except for like all the dried tendrils or whatever is like on the wall and everything. Meanwhile, Nancy, Jonathan, Steve, and Dustin, they've arrived at the power company place where the research lab is supposed to be in the center of the circle and upside down. In the lobby, Jonathan is like, what are we looking for? And Dustin's, he makes a Return of Jedi analogy. Of course, they always got to tie into something pop culture. Rebels needed to destroy a second Death Star, but is surrounded by a protective energy shield, which is created by the shield generator. And Steve's like, thanks for a summary of a movie we've all seen. And Dustin's like, it's an oddly relevant movie. And he's like, look, I think the circular flesh wall is Vecna's version of the energy shield, except it's not sci-fi, it's supernatural, created by Vecna's dark magic. And that's preventing them from reaching him and saving Holly. And if his math is correct, the generator for the shield has to be in this lab. So they reach some stairs. So it's like up or down. Nancy's like, both. It's like search in teams of 2, cover more ground. Steve's like, fine, but he's like, but I want to mix the teams up. He's like, Nance, you and me go up. Jonathan's like, are you serious? And Steve says that him and Henderson need some space. Dustin's like, please. Jonathan's like, fine, how about me and you? And Steve says that he thinks he needs some space too from Jonathan. And he's like, so everyone but Nancy, it's convenient. Nancy's like, we don't have time for this. Let's just keep it simple and stick to the usual teams. Steve's like, I can't. And she's like, end of discussion. And she starts going up and Jonathan follows. At Henry's house, one girl is playing piano, Derek's eating snacks, one kid watches TV while snacking, another's working a puzzle, 2 kids are chasing each other, a couple are tossing a ball. One kid runs down the stairs, tags the girl in piano, is like, you're it, and she starts chasing him. In a bedroom, one girl says to Holly, she can't believe she had a whole day there without her, and she's holding up a green dress. She's like, is this my color? Holly's like distracted, thinking about Henry, and she's like, oh yeah, totally. And the girl's like, what's going on with you? And Holly's like, nothing. The girl's like, you're acting weird. And Holly's like, oh, I ate too much cake or something. And she's like, maybe Mr. What's-It has some tea. And Holly excuses herself, goes downstairs quietly. A bunch of kids are watching TV. She sneaks out into the woods. Mac's like, what are you doing here? And Holly's like, we need to talk. Mac's like, the plan was to wait for Henry to leave. And Holly's like, I know, but, he was talking, saying all this creepy stuff. And Mac's like, did anyone see you come here? And she's like, no, I was careful. And he's like, please just listen. It's like, I know why Henry kidnapped us. He's going to somehow use us to draw another world to Earth. And Mac's like, draw another world? It's like, I don't understand what that means. And Holly's like, Henry says it's to save Earth, but I think it's really to destroy it. Whatever he's planning, he's going to do it tomorrow. We have to get out of Kamazatz right now. And Mac's like, we'll never make it. As soon as he realizes that you're gone, he'll track you down with his powers and catch us. And then they hear like a twig snap behind him. And Mac's like, are you sure no one saw you? And she's like, positive. They go and look. Max pulls up Derek, who's like lying behind a log. She's like, who the hell are you? Derek's like, who the hell are you? And Holly's like, what are you doing here, dip poop? Except they don't say poop. He's like, I'm not dip poop Derek anymore. I'm delightful Derek. And Mac's like, how much did you hear? He's like, not much. Just how you want to escape, but you can't because you need Henry to leave first. Otherwise, he'll find you with his evil Vecna magic. And Mac's like, Vecna? He's like, I didn't say that name. How do you know that name? He's like, Mike. And Mac's like, Mike? And Holly's like, my brother Mike? And Derek's like, he's like my best friend now. And she's like, you're best friends with Mike. He's like, and also Will and Lucas and Erica and Mrs. Byers and Miss Robbins. It's like, we tried to save the others, but that didn't work. So now I'm here. I thought I couldn't trust anyone, but then I saw your face during Mr. What's-It's speech. And I was like, she knows that he's full of poop. So I followed you into the woods, and obviously I was right on the money. So can I come with you? Mac's like, no. It's like, none of us are going anywhere, not as long as Henry's watching. Holly's like, what if we make sure he's not watching? It's like, you can't come with us, but maybe you can help us escape. But you really need to drop this new delightful thing, because if this is going to work, we need dip poop Derek. And then he smirks. So I think part of him, he seemed proud to be delightful Derek, but part of him, he relishes, he enjoys being mean, whatever. At the radio station, Joyce says that the goal is simple. They get Will close to the hive mind. Then he jacks back in. This time, he doesn't go after Demo, he goes after Vecna. One blow takes him out, ends him, ends his army, ends his nightmare. That's it. And she's very proud of her plan. She's like, any thoughts? She's like, there's no bad ideas. And they're like still nursing her wounds, like Robin's just got an ice pack on her temple or something like that. And she's like, it's a great plan, right? Murray's like, yeah, no, yes, it's a great plan. It's just, and Rob's like, well, you took out a Demo with your mind. And Mike's like, 3 to be exact. And Luke is like, simultaneously. And Murray's like, well, butter my butt and call me a biscuit. And they talk about him being a sorcerer, powers are innate. And Joy's like, can we just focus? She says that they could build another telemetry thing. They could focus, or so they can find Elle and Jonathan and the others and hope that they have a track on Vecna. Mike says that Dustin hand-built that tracker himself, and he has no idea how it works. They could try to figure it out, but it'd probably take days, days they don't have. Robin's like, well, what if we put Will in the back of the van and drive him around like a human antenna? And Will's like, what? And she's like, hey, no, she said no bad ideas. That doesn't seem like that bad of an idea. I mean, I don't know. It's like almost the same thing. Joyce is like, what else? And Murray's like, anyone else starving? And, they slowly raise their hands. So then they dig into a bunch of like junk food snacks, but it seems like just a way for the show to show off. Like, oh, look at all the time we took to create old packaging. We're so cool and everything. It's just, I don't know. It's silly. I mean, I appreciate the attention to detail. It's so unnecessary. It's like you don't have to show all this and take the time it's the money to do this. It's not necessary, but whatever. And Lucas is like making microwave popcorn. Erica has like a high-C juice box, and she sees this newspaper article on the bulletin board where Dustin's with the science teacher when the station welcomed the AV club or something like that. And Lucas starts staring intently at the popcorn popping. Lucas and Erica both run to the others like we got it. He's like, I got it. And so Erica's like, I'll go first. She's like, Dustin is MIA, but his mentor is not. And Mike's like, Mr. Clark? She's like, he's the biggest nerd in Hawkins. He taught Dustin everything he knows. If anyone can build a new tracker and fast, it's him. Mike says that that could work. And Luke is like, yeah, but it'll just take time. It's like, my plan is faster, bolder, better. He's like, as I was heating up my popcorn, I thought about Billy in the sauna. We heated him up to activate the particles, right? It's like they were dormant, just like these kernels, just like the particles inside the demos Will killed. To bring them back to life, we have to heat them up. There's 50,000 watts flowing through that tower. We pump the dead demos with electricity, shock those particles back to life, and voila. It's like we've got ourselves an instant hive mind. Erica's like, you want to Dr. Frankenstein a dead demo? That's your big plan? He's like, your plan is slow as poop. And she's like, your plan is stupid as poop. Murray's like, hey, children, stop it. He's like, let's be clear. They each have flaws, like many, many flaws. And Joyce is like, so we try both. We throw 2 darts and pray for a bullseye. At the lab in Upside Down, Dustin and Steve go down. There's like some little bickering, of course. They finally reach the kids' common room. And it's like covered with like stuff like everything else. Steve's like, I did not expect to find a daycare in this hellhole. There's more bickering about stuff, and then they end up like splitting up. Jonathan says that he's starting to worry Dustin might be wrong this time. The whole place is dead, and seems increasingly unlikely. Nancy's like, well, we're here now, might as well search the place. Then Jonathan decides it's time to talk. He's like, hey, did I do something to piss you off or something? She's like, what are you talking about? He's like, I don't know. There's a tone. She's like, a tone? He's like, yeah. And she's like, okay. He's like, see, that was it, the tone. She's like, yeah, well, now there's a tone because you're being ridiculous. And he's like, yeah, well, was I being ridiculous downstairs also? And she's like, oh, you mean when you and Steve started your macho crap again? He's like, wait, no, you mean when Steve asked you to go with him and you hesitated? And she's like, actually, I said we should stick to the usual. He's like, yeah, after you hesitate. She's like, I didn't hesitate. He's like, I know you, Nancy. You hesitated. She's like, okay, so what if I did? For which I didn't. It doesn't matter. My sister is missing, which is the whole point. It's like, get your head out of your butt. She's focused on trying to find her sister. She doesn't know if her sister is even alive. And he's like, which is exactly why it does matter. He's like, after everything that is happening, I'm scared, Nancy, okay? I'm really scared. I don't know what's on the other side of any of this. But what I do know is that if we want to stand a chance at surviving this, like, all right, we need to be a team like we used to be. She's like, we are still a team. He's like, no, we're not anymore. She's like, so what, you want to solve all of our relationship issues here in Hawkins' lab, in the Upside Down? He's like, no, Nancy, I just want you to stop running away from me. Start being honest with me. And she's like, oh, and that's what you've been honest with me? He's like, yeah, I've been honest with you. And she's like, you hesitated. He's like, no, I didn't. And she says the hesitation was the size of a Mack truck. She's like, I know you. And she walks off. And they go look for more. And he pauses, of course, so he can pull out a John Coltrane cassette that he has that has the ring in there that Murray got for him. It's like, dude, it's like end of the world stuff, and you're worrying about your relationship. It's like, you should have done this like 5 years ago. Then he sees like a slightly melted doorknob, and it's like some stuff like melting underneath. So he tries the doorknob and it breaks off. He tries pushing the door. Then he starts using his shoulder. Nancy comes in from the other side. It's like, what are you doing? Because he's hears like big bang. He ignores her. He gives like a third whack. The door opens up, and then there's stairs that go up. And there's like a bloody trail like on the stairs. He's like, is it too late to take back what I said about Dustin's theory? So they start going up. Hopper is trying to call him on a walkie-talkie. Inside 8, her name is Callie. I totally forgot. Callie says it must have been a surprise finding her instead of Henry. And Levin says sorry for not finding her sooner. Callie says that she couldn't have known. Elle says that she's like, well, I have a bath, a tank at home. She's like, I can search far, even here. And she's like, but I think I was afraid to look for you. How much did you know about Henry? And she's like, everything except that he was still alive. And Eleven's like, help me find him, kill him. And Callie's like, then what? Eleven's like, it ends. We can finally live. We can really live. And Callie's like, that's just a dream, Jane. And Eleven's like, it doesn't have to be. And Callie's like, I had the same dream, that we could stop all this, heal our wounds. But they found me, found my friends, killed them, and took me. So we see him like when they grabbed her, they cut her hair, shaved it, whatever, strap her to a table, put electrodes in her, inject her with like a needle. Then they put her like in the harness thing where they found her. And she says that she didn't know why she was still alive. She thought maybe this Dr. K was hired to torture her, and maybe this was not about revenge. But Dr. K needed her blood, and her need was endless. She just kept taking and taking. And I began to think of her as a kind of vampire. It's like, I don't know how long I was there because they had me drugged. All I knew was that I needed to get out, and the only way out was death. Dr. K thought she had stopped my tricks, like with that awful sound of hers, but not all tricks require power. And then we see her, she like grabbed a scalpel, she attacks some of the doctors and the nurses. She takes like an ID badge off of one, she opens the door, and she's like, if I had known what was on the other side of that door, I never would have left. So at Henry's, the kids are playing in the playground across the street from the house, like on the edge of the woods. One kid's like, go away, dip poop, to Derek. And he's like, you read my mind. He keeps walking. They start walking towards the woods, and they ask, what he's doing. It's against the rules. And he's like, according to who? Mr. Rogers? He can suck my big... He's like, shut up. He goes with his classic line. He goes in the woods, and 3 kids run in the house. Mr. What's it? Mr. What's it? Derek went into the woods. She's like, what if Henry catches Derek? Do you think he'll hurt him or worse? Max is like, as long as Derek makes it to the cave, he's safe. We just need Henry to take bait. And she's like, well, how long is it going to take to find the exit? And Max is like, let's hope not long. And Holly's like, right. It's just that you had your friend Kate to guide you. And Max is like, I've been doing this for the past 2 years. All I've been doing is moving through this maze. It's like, I'm all the guide we need. Once we find his first memory of you, we'll follow the memory trail to the night he captured you. And if I'm right, the exit to the real world will be right there. And then we escape Camazotz. Will and Robin are working with a drill, cables, and pumpkins. She decides that this is another chance to have a talk. She says she wants to make... she waited to make this super awkward, but she never thanked him for saving her life. And he's like, well, you're welcome. He's like, I should be thanking you for talking to me about Tammy and your life. He's like, it was so helpful. And he's like, after this, Tammy and a whole tape epiphany, is that when you and Vicky started to? And she's like, no. It's like, I never would have had the guts to talk to Vic back then. It's like, I was finally cool with myself, but sharing that part of myself with someone else, that was a whole other thing. But eventually I did it. I told someone, and it looks like she looks at stuff. She's like, looks like we're all set. She starts climbing down the roof of so they're in a little shack building at the bottom of the tower. And Will's like, wait, but who did you tell? And she's like, oh, the obvious, Steve. And he's like, wait, what? He's like, Robin, I don't understand. It's not the same as in your Steve, like Steve. She's like, Steve the Hare Harrington, my once sworn enemy. She goes in the shack. She's like, watch out. She turns on the power. And he yells that that's good. She cuts the power because the pumpkin starts like sparking and stuff. He continues to say, he's like, I like Steve, but I don't understand. He seems, and she's like a bonkers choice. It's like, I know, but to be fair, we had just been injected with truth serum by the evil Russians, which is kind of like liquid courage on steroids. It's like, really, drugs or not? Just saying out loud to someone and hearing him be cool with it, it's like this weight lifted. And, if I hadn't told Steve, then I probably wouldn't have had the courage to open up to Vicky about it and probably wouldn't be talking to you about it either. It's like, you're the only audience member. She's like, you're only audience member number 3. He's like, I'm hoping to double my audience by the end of this year. But that's only if you outsource her to sorcerer and if we don't all die. And he's like, you don't by chance have any of that truth serum left, do you? In Henry's world, Holly's like, this is it. This is where I woke up in an empty field. And Mac's like, good. Look for anything that's out of place. It'll be hidden, hard to find, and Holly's like, there. And there's like a white door floating a couple feet, like in the middle of the field. And Mac's like, oh, or not hard. So they go over to it. Max opens the door, and there's like wooden stairs that lead down to a basement. And there's like a roar and girls scream. Mac's like, it's just a memory. Whatever's down there, it can't hurt us. So they go down. The door closes behind them. Holly and her friend are down there watching a horror movie. And she says to Max, she's like, I don't understand. This was Halloween. I hadn't met Henry yet. And Max like, just because you didn't see him doesn't mean he wasn't there. There's a flash of lightning, and Max turns and sees Max like standing outside a window. And Max says, remember, this is just a memory. Max walks up to the window, like, flips off the memory, Henry, and then like pulls the blinds down. And she says, there should be another memory close by. And she's like, do you know when you first actually met Henry? She's like, I need you to focus. And she's like, after school, I think, the library. Max looks around, sees some books, shoves them off a shelf, and they see Holly like, sitting at a table reading Wrinkle in Time. Henry comes up like he's in a suit. He's like, oh, I absolutely adore that book. And he's like, hello, my name is Henry. What's yours? So we see Steve's like sitting in a room playing with a Rubik's Cube. He tosses it at the floor just as Dustin enters. He's like, really? You're actually playing in here? And Steve's like, I'm just following orders, dude. Judging by your pissy look, I assume you didn't find a shield generator. And he's like, it's here somewhere. And Steve's like, but you didn't find it. He's like, yeah, not on this floor. And Steve's like, so you were wrong. He's like, you would just love that, wouldn't you? Steve's like, no, I'm just stating a fact. He's like, no, you're gloating, despite the fact that if I'm wrong, we don't reach past the wall. We don't find Holly and the other kids. Do you understand how selfish you're being? Steve's like, me? Selfish? You want to talk about selfish? How about when we finally reach Hop and L, we promptly tell them to pursue this BS theory of yours. Not to mention, you're the reason we lost contact with them in the first place because of your no-show at the crawl. So this whole mess is actually your fault. And I haven't heard so much as a sorry. And he's like, poop. Again, it's not like I didn't just show up. I was attacked. And Steve's like, no, you wanted to fight. And that's exactly what you got. Just look at your stupid face. You've done some stupid poop in the past, but this, man, this takes a cake. And I was like, you want to talk to me about dumb poop? How about chasing after somebody else's girlfriend while the world is ending? Steve's like, Nancy is a friend. She's a friend, okay? You remember what that's like, having friends? He's like, yeah, I do. I remember what it's like to have a good friend, a real friend who actually believed in me and was actually kind to me. And he's like, aha. And he's like, what? He's like, there we go. What this has all been about, really, is Eddie. I was like, all your BS, pushing everyone away. It's because no one could ever be as perfect as he was. And Dustin's like, he wasn't perfect, but at least he knew that, unlike you, he was never fake. He didn't care what other people thought about him. He was just himself. And you know what? He was the smartest, kindest person I ever met. And he would have solved that Rubik's Cube in like 30 seconds flat. And Steve's like, if I'm such a GD idiot, how come I'm the one still standing here? What the hell is that supposed to mean? He's like, that night, I told you not to be heroes. I told both of you. What did Eddie do? He charged into a swarm of killer bats. He's like, to save my life. And he's like, he saved no one. He saved everyone. He's like, you can keep telling yourself that, but deep down, the reason you're so GD pissed is because you know the truth. Eddie wanted to play hero. He made a dumb call, and he got himself killed. He's like, shut up. He throws a Rubik's Cube at Steve's face, and he tries like tackling him. And then, Dustin starts like trying to hit him on the side. Steve like shoves him down. He's like, what are you doing, man? Stop it. And then like the walkie-talkie was like hits the ground, like the antenna like breaks off. So Dustin picks up like a chessboard, starts like hitting Steve with it. Steve like shoves him back against the table, and Dustin charges, and then Steve like knocks him off his feet, and Dustin looks at a shelf that he fell by. He starts like throwing little blocks or something at him, and Steve's like, Henderson, calm down. He tries like tackling him again. He's like, you're gonna hurt yourself, man. They fall like over an opening, I think, where like maybe the one-way mirror would have been to the like whatever interrogation room thing. So they're on the ground. He's like, all right, Henderson. And Dustin like hits him in the face, and Steve like grabs him. He's like, enough, man, enough. So he grabs him from behind. Dustin kicks against the wall, makes him slam to the opposite wall, and they fall to the floor. He's like, you know what, man? He's like, I'm done. He starts walking away. He's like, I'm done. And Dustin's sitting on the floor. He's like, all right, yeah, you just go crawl back to Nance, you dumb fake a-hole. Then he goes to lean against the wall. It's not a wall, it's a door. So he grabs the flashlight. He looks in there. It's like a little office. He pulls out his map, and it matches like a big one on the wall, like the circle and everything. He's like, what the hell? Upstairs, Nancy and Jonathan walk around. Everything is like covered, like melted. And he is like, what do you think? And she's like, maybe some kind of nuclear explosion like Chernobyl. He's like, yeah, but in a nuclear explosion, everything would burn. He's like, it wouldn't just melt like this. And he's like, do you notice the air? And she's like, what? He's like, look, it's clean. There's no spores. He's like, whatever happened here, Vecna's behind it. It had to be. She's like, dark magic. And then they freak out because there's a body like melted, frozen in the floor. It's almost like half in the floor. It's like a soldier. And they find another like in a wall, like kind of merged in a wall, melted or whatever. And then there's a door further down. It's partially melted. It says like roof access. It's like authorized, but it's like the sign is even melted. And he's like, you had to pick up, didn't you? At the upside down base, alarms are still going off. Callie like jumps out, knocks a soldier down, and like shoots him with his gun. And she's actually telling her side of the story to Eleven, that she never knew how close she was to making it out. Now, thanks to Eleven and her policeman, she does 10 yards. She's like, one more corner, and my life would have been different. So in her flashbacks, more soldiers are coming after her. She shoots, opens like a metal door with the ID thing used as a shield, and she shoots the ID scanner so they can't get through the door after she shuts it. She slowly turns. She says 11. She's like, in my search for a way out, I found something else. I found the answer to why I was there. And we see there's a lady strapped to the table. She's unconscious and she's pregnant. She's like, they were infusing her and her unborn child with my blood. and it was killing her along with her unborn child. So the lady's like wheezing, and she's like, help. And the soldier's like pounding on the door outside. So Callie goes in the next room, and there's another pregnant lady on the table. She goes in the next room, and another one. She's like, I don't know how many there were. It's weird, there's like all these like adjoining operating room, delivery rooms. It's like, how many could there be? She says she doesn't know how many were, but they were all sick and dying. And in memory, she's like running room after room until she finally runs into like a soldier's fist and she goes down. Then they're like using tasers on her, just like over and over again. Eleven's like, I don't understand. And she's like, pregnant woman. Callie's like, pregnant woman, a secret government program. Does that not remind you of anything? And Eleven's like, Mama. Callie like makes a memory appear. She's like, it was not drugs that gave us our powers, Jane. It was Henry. Now Dr. K is trying to restart Papa's program. But my blood is not working, not as Henry's did. The truth is, Papa's children were always just pale imitations of Henry. Only one of us was truly like him. And she's talking about 11. And she's like, this is just an illusion. This isn't real. None of this is real. And Callie's like, why do you think Kay is so desperate to find you? They will find you, and they will create more like you, like Henry. Then 11 sees herself like strapped to the contraption thing where they found Callie. And she's like, Callie's like, there are no happy endings, Jane, not for us. So 11 like goes through the image and Hopper's there. And he's like, hey, it's okay, it's just me. And then 11 turns and sees like blood coming from Callie's nose. And 11 like walks past Hopper. Hopper looks at Callie's and she wipes her nose. Derek, meanwhile, is walking through the woods with Max's map. He's looking at the compass, and then Henry's suddenly in front of him. He's like, a little lost, are we? Derek like stumbles back and falls. Henry grabs his like sweater and like pins him down. He looks over at the map. Who gave you this map? And he's like, your mom. And he's like, look at me. You lied to me again, and I will kill your fool of a father. He grabs Derek by the face and turns his head and sees his dad lying next to him with his eyes gouged out. And then he turns his head, or your snake of a mother, and she's there. And he lifts his head like up so he can see like above his head or like whatever behind him. And he's like, and that witch of a sister too. So in a Holly memory at school, teacher tells him playtime's over. So memory Holly sees Henry standing outside the fence, and she was on the playground. She walks over him like past Max and real Holly. Max like, you're positive nothing else happened before the demo showed up? She's like, yes. And she's like, walk me through everything again from the beginning. She's like, I told you already. Max like, tell me again. So Holly mentions a merry-go-round, Derek spinning it. Derek was acting like normal, and then Henry called her over to him. It's like, he told me he'd protect me from the monsters, and I didn't see him again until the field. I just got in trouble for having an imaginary friend, and Mom got all weird, and she had gotten a big fight with Dad, and she goes over to the merry-go-round, and Max like, what's wrong? And Holly's like, that's wrong. It's like, because it's like, it's yellow and silver. She's like, that should be yellow. There's a big circle in the middle, because right now it's like metal or gray or whatever. And Holly like pulls out the fire poker. She hits it like at the center of the merry-go-round, and it shatters. And then you hear like distant screaming. This is from the night when the demo attacked the house, and they're looking down, but so they're looking straight down, but they're really looking sideways out of a mirror on Holly's like bedroom wall. So you see Holly like being grabbed by the demo, like pulled up, and she's like clinging onto the bed. Then she thinks back to the bathtub and running downstairs, and demo roaring, her mom attacking it and getting slashed. Max is like, Holly, and just like snaps her out of it. She's like, are you all right? And Holly's like, I don't know. She's like, I'm scared. Max is like, well, we're close to the final memory. She's like, you might start to feel things, some things that you felt that night. She's like, I know I did, but it's just like an echo. It's a good sign. It means you're almost home. And Max was like, she's like, come on. And she goes through. Holly's like, you said I'm almost home, but you're coming too, right? And Max is like, no, I'm going to stick around here. She's like, actually, of course. Are you kidding? Come on. So at the station, they have a dead demo in the back of the van. Robin Will says that the cables won't reach the ground, so they're going to have to do their science experiment up on the roof. So they tie, it's wrapped up in a blanket. They tie ropes around it, put the ropes over the building. The van's on the other side, and they're like going to pull it up, like hoist it up, like slowly. And then like three of them are like with like push brooms like underneath to help push the demo like up onto the roof as they're pulling it over. So then they get it up on the roof. They hammered like a couple of big metal irons into it, like one in the knee and one in the shoulder. cables, the electrical big power cables wrapped around the iron. Then Robin's like, okay, it says they're all set. So Will's sitting on the ground, crisscross applesauce, so he can like focus. Joyce says if anything happens, get out of there. Lucas says, and if poop really hits a fan, they'll just crank up the voltage, burn out the particles, and unplug him from the hive. And Will's like, Mom? And she's like, yeah. He's like, thank you for trusting me. And she's like, kill the bastard. So Robin turns the powers, fingers of the demo start twitching. Mike's up on the roof, and Will's breathing deeply. Mike says, it's working. Robin's like, we're at 50%. Then they all stand around Will. So no one's watching the demo up on the roof. Mike climbs down. Robin leaves the inside of the shack by the control thing. So they're all standing there. Will can see through the demo's eyes, tries reaching like into the hive, sees like Derek, sees like Henry's world and the outskirts of the woods by the playground. And the kids walk up to him asking like, where's Mr. What's-It? And Will's like, I think I'm Derek. He's with the others, the other lost children. And Mike's like, what about Holly? He's like, do you see Holly? He's like, no. The kids ask like, where's Mr. What's-It? And Derek's voice says, searching for Holly. And Will's like, Henry's searching for her. And Holly's friend, I think it was Jenny, says that Holly would never run away. She isn't like that. And he's like, you're lying. And Derek's like, I'm not lying. And he's like, a monster tricked her. It's disguised as a girl with weird clothes and red hair. She calls herself, and Will's like, Max. Luke's like, wait, what about Max? And Will's like, she's with Holly, but Vecna's hunting them. So Holly's memory when the demo like slashed at Mom's, like walking towards her, like in the kitchen, real Holly and Max are behind it. She's like, I just stood there. She's like, why didn't I fight? Why didn't I help her? And Max like, that was old Holly. You would now. They see old Holly getting dragged away by the demo. She's screaming, Mommy, Mommy. And Max like, come on. They walk past her mom. They see the upside down through a doorway. Holly's like, what's that? And Max like, it's our exit. Holly says, it doesn't look like an exit. So you sure you're not a monster? And Max like, pretty sure. They take this step towards the door, but then the actual door just like slides down over the doorway. And they both like gasp and step back. Max tries like the door, but it's locked. And then you hear, I told you, Holly. So Henry's like walking down the stairs. His suit's like starts flickering to like the white jumpsuit and like between the white jumpsuit and his business suit. And then when it settles on the white suit and it's like splattered with blood, he's like, never go into the woods. Max grabs her hand. They run to the side into like the other room. She tries a window, but it won't open. And Holly's like, he's coming. Max smashes a window with like the fire poker. Holly turns and sees Henry is like changing. So now he's Vecna. He's pure Vecna. Max starts to move Holly behind her, but then his arm extends out, wraps a big hand around her neck and like lifts her up, pulls her close. So she's up in the air. He's like kind of choking her feet are just dangling. Holly screams out Max's name. She picks up the poker and he's like, at long last, the fox is caught. Holly's like, stop. Vecna like looks at her, growls, and she shrinks back a little bit. At the hospital, Max's heart monitor is beeping rapidly, and what I guess no one's monitoring it because she's like about to die, and there's no one like running in. Like, what's going on? Holly yells out her name again. The beeps are getting slower, so like Max is dying. She's starting to struggle less. And it's like, are you serious? It's like, you're gonna do this now? The beeps are almost fainting, and then they start up again. And Will stands up. His eyes are white. He's like straining. Mike's like, it's working. Will raises his fist and makes like a braking motion, and Vecna's right leg snaps and he screams. He releases Max and he falls down. Holly runs to see Max if she's all right. Vecna sits up like moaning, and then Will kind of like twists his hands to make Vecna's head turn, and then he's like, Max. And, so he says that, and Vecna's like, says, so they both like, if you can hear me, you need to run. They get up. Vecna's leg starts to heal, starts to go back, and he stands as Henry, and then he's like, get out. And Will like strains and grows. He's like, get out. He's like, get out. Robin yells like, what's happening? And he's like, get out. Ah. He's like shouts. He like raises his hands like, get out. Will goes whoosh, because Vecna's telling him to get out. Will goes flying back. And then they run to Will. Robin like runs to the power. Lucas like, crank it. Robin turns up to 100. The demo on the roof's like screeching, sparking. Then a bunch of black particles spew out of its mouth into the air. It's like big like swirl of smoke. They watch it spin up and they look back at Will as he comes back to them. Jonathan and Nancy They bust open the roof to the door, and there's like everything is melted, or up on top, more melted poop. And Nancy looks around and she calls Jonathan. She's like, her light. There's like something there. Dustin's looking in a journal. Jonathan breaks off a pipe, throws it, and you can see there's like, he throws it up. There's like an energy sphere there. He's like, dark magic. Dustin sees like a drawing of the sphere as well, and Jonathan, he's calling it a walkie-talkie. You know, if they copy, they found a shield generator. Dustin runs to the walkie-talkie and tries talking to it. John's like, I can't hear you. He's like, Dustin, can you hear me? And it's because the antenna's broke, because he was having his little fit. Jonathan repeats, he's like, we found a shield generator. Dustin's like trying to put the antenna back. He's like, just listen to me, okay? He's like, don't touch anything. Don't touch it. Don't touch anything. Jonathan can barely hear him because there's like static in it. So he goes to Nancy, he's like, they're out of range. And she's like, well, I guess they'll miss the show. She gets a shotgun ready. And Dustin like duct tapes the antenna together. He starts running like towards the stairs. As he's going up, he's yelling. He's like, if you can hear me, I was wrong. The shield generator. It's not a shield generator. It's not dark magic. It's something else. It's like, Jonathan, Nancy. She's aiming a shotgun. But it's like, wait, you don't put your face right up to a shotgun and shoot, because isn't there like a lot of recoil? And he's like, Jonathan, Nancy, if you destroy it, you will die. We will die. Holly will die. Everyone will die. Do you copy? And then Jonathan grabs the shotgun barrel. And he's like, are you sure about this? And she looks up, and she looks at him. She's like, no. She raises the shotgun again. You see her finger on the trigger. Boom. And that's where it ends. And that is how you do a cliffhanger. Because now it's like, okay, Dustin's saying, if you shoot it, you're going to die. We're all going to die. And what happens? She shoots it. And then boom, that's the end of the episode. So now I have no idea what's going to happen next until maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow. I'll get a chance to watch it. But yeah, so there you go. That is episode 505. And but I'm also curious, like, what about like Holly and Will, or Holly and Max? Can they go out the window? Because if they can't make it out the door, she busted the window. Can they go out that window? And if they go out, is that the exit? Is that the exit for both of them? Because it's supposed to be Holly's exit. And if Max goes out there, she's not seeing herself. So I don't know if she can exit there. If she exits with Holly, is she going to get like shunted back to her body in the hospital? We'll see. So that is the 5th episode. So can you bear with me? Can you hold yourself back and not watch it right away? And not watch the rest of the episodes and just wait. Enjoy it, savor it, instead of just plowing through them all and then that's it forever. Okay, and now the movie feature is The Housemaid. So this is a movie starring Amanda Seyfried and Sydney Sweeney, and I'm sure there's some other people. But it's based off a book by Frida McFadden. It's directed by Paul Feig, who did Bridesmaids, Ghostbusters, Simple Favor, and other stuff. This is I really like this, and I really think this is worth watching. The book is really good. So I was surprised at my buddy. He's like, oh, I love that book. So he read it. And the reason I'm surprised, because I'm looking at this, I thought this was a quote unquote chick book. And I say that because my wife, she devours books, and she read the book and she's like, oh, you might like this. Every once in a while, she says that, she suggests a book, but then I'll listen to the audiobook since I don't have time to read books because I'm reading comics and watching stuff and doing podcasts and reading comics and reading more comics and more comics. And so I listened to the audiobook and I did really like it. And then I found out, I was like, whoa, they're making a movie of this? I was like, it was like so coincidental. It's like I had no idea. And then there's actually more than one book. So I've listened to the first 2 books. I think there's a 3rd book. I haven't listened to that yet because it's like, I don't know if I want to get too far ahead. But it's see, now how to talk about this without giving too much away. So Sydney Sweeney, she's basically down on her luck. She was in jail for something, and I don't know. You don't find out right away, but I don't know if you find out right away she was in jail. But she's like, she kind of has a temper, but for good things, because she's like living in her car. We see her maybe it's later we see her when she's like working at a restaurant, and the boss is being like kind of like groping another coworker, and she's like defending her and stuff like that. So she's a good person. She just has a short temper, and she just doesn't put up with stuff, and so she basically loses her job because of this. And who's going to believe her, because she's on probation. So the fact that like if she doesn't have a job, or if she can't keep a job, she's going to go back to jail type of thing, because she was let out early, good behavior or whatever. And so then it comes down to it. She finds an ad to be like a housemaid, like a live-in housemaid or something like that. So she goes there and she interviews with Amanda Seyfried about stuff like that. And it's like this huge fancy house, and she's thinking, she's like, there's no way. So she goes in there. It's like all this fancy food and stuff like that, and she asks us questions like that. And Millie, Sydney Sweeney, she's thinking, she's like, as soon as she checks my references and sees that they're fake, she's like, that's it, it's done. She's like, I don't even know why I bothered coming out here. So she does all this stuff, and Amanda Seyfried, she's like, I have a good feeling about you. She's like, she's like, well, at the end, she's like, I just have a couple more people interview, whatever, and she tries giving her like $20, and Millie, Amanda, or Sydney Sweeney, she's like, no, I can't. She's like, oh, so at least I can do it, for your gas for coming out here and everything. But she says she has a good feeling, so she like drives away. And one thing I like in the movie, you see it in the trailer, because she's wearing glasses, and as she drives away, she like takes the glass off, kind of drops them, because she wore glasses to try to make herself look like nerdy or whatever, so not intimidating or anything like that. And because then later, like Amanda Seyfried, she's like, you're not wearing glasses, and she's like, oh, I got contacts or something like that. So Amanda Seyfried wants Millie to live in the house because she's so busy, and she wants to get pregnant again, and they have a daughter. There's a daughter there, and she wants to do some light cooking and stuff like that. So it's like typical like high maintenance mom and all this stuff. But then there's kind of like a darker side to her. And there's like times where things are happening. Because like when the husband comes home, Andrew, and she's like, oh, this is Millie. She's going to be living with me. He's like, she's going to be living with us? What? And she's like, yeah, I told you all about it. And he's like, he doesn't know what she's talking about. Oh, and she was also going to have like be able to stay in this like upstairs attic, so she'll have like privacy and everything the other end of the house. But it's like this one room attic, and Millie's like, this is perfect because she's living on her car, and but then like Millie notices right away, it's like, wait, why is there a deadbolt, like a lock on the outside, but there's like a regular keyhole lock and then this other bolt and stuff like that. So that seems a little weird. So she lives there, but then you start seeing, it's like, wait, this lady, she's not as maybe Nina, Amanda Seyfried, isn't as stable as there's something off with her. It's like, what is going on? And she just like kind of flips a switch and just like starts going off. And Millie, she's she needs this job. She can't go back to prison, and she doesn't have this job. There goes her probation and stuff like that. So it just starts getting worse and worse. And then there's like, wait, what's going on? There's a mystery. And there's like this gardener dude. He's like giving her looks like wait, what's up with him? And what's happening? And it just like just escalates and escalates. And so it's a good suspense movie. Yeah. So I'm looking at Wikipedia. They're calling it an erotic psychological thriller. Okay, I guess you can see that, and that's the thing. There is some. I guess there is some erotic parts to it. There doesn't need to be, but there is in this book. I don't know if you'd really, you don't really get that in the other one, the second one at least. But aside from that, it's a really good movie, and I'm glad I saw it. It was they did a great job adapting. It's almost identical to the book. There's it's minor changes here and there, and some things. There's one part that's like I had to like look away. I couldn't watch it, but they do a good job with it. I mean, Amanda Seyfried, she is amazing. I mean, she has like pretty much everything she's done. She's always been such a good actress, and just flipping the roles and doing all this. And Sydney Sweeney, I actually haven't seen her in a whole lot of stuff. I'm trying to think. Have I seen any of her movies? I must have seen her in something, because I never watched whatchamacallit. I never watched Euphoria. So I'm trying to see. Yeah, she's had little roles. Like she was in an episode of Heroes, apparently. She was in 90210 in 2010. I don't know is that the newer one? Yeah. She was in Grey's Anatomy. She was in Handmaid's Tale. So she had like all these little roles. Movies. Okay, so I take it back. I did see her in Madam Web. I did see The Voyeurs. Wait, she was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? Diane Snake Lake? Was she one of the other girls? I don't remember that. And I think, yeah, that's the only thing I've seen her in. Because I never saw Anyone But You, because that has Glenn Powell. And yeah, I didn't see Christy. I'm curious to see that. Yeah, so... And it seems there seems to be a perception around her. It seems like people either like her or they really don't like her. And I thought she was really good in the role. And she plays the character I feel just right. Is her delivery perfect? Whatever. I feel like it's almost like natural. Where is Sydney Sweeney acting, or is she just reading it as herself? I don't know, because I haven't seen her in other things. But I felt for like who the character is and what they're doing, that's how it should be. So I don't know. I thought it was fine, but I think it's a good movie. You should see it. There's like a mystery. Is there a twist? Maybe. I'm not gonna, because a lot of times if you say there's a twist, and then it's like you start looking for the twist. And a lot of times when movies have a twist, sometimes it's just like too far-fetched or too obvious or whatever. But I think they did a good job with it. So I really enjoyed it. I did enjoy it more than Avatar. And I think part of it is because with the shorter runtime, I mean, you can't even compare the two movies. The only reason I bring up Avatar is because they were both released on the same day. Two completely different movies. Avatar... I feel like the Avatar movies are just too ambitious. There's just too much going on. It's too much visuals. It looks amazing. I said it last week. I'll say it again. Yeah, it's great. It's gorgeous in 3D. But with this, I feel like they did a great job just recreating everything. Yeah, they're just completely different movies. So you should definitely see The Housemaid if you want to see a good thriller. And hopefully we'll get an adaptation of the second book. Because it's worth it. And hopefully this podcast has been worth it. But I think that's it. There's not much else to say. They did a good job with the movie. And yeah. So hopefully I did a good job with this episode. But that is going to be it for this week. So this is the final episode of the year. So big thanks to everyone for listening. Big thanks to Andrew Loken. He is a huge supporter of the show. He's my absolute hero. You can be a supporter by going to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Any amount you can commit to will be awesome. If you commit at the Rick Jones tier or higher, you get access to the secret podcast from Heck, which is an additional 30 minutes podcast entertainment every single week. I've been doing what if episodes lately, doing off my minds as soon as I can think of something. For this next week, which would be probably the final episode, I don't know what I'll do. We'll see. It might just be another what if, because those are fast and easy. Also, just this time of year, I don't know if people are listening to this episode, let alone the Patreon episodes. So we'll see about that. But you get an episode every single week, both times. If you can't commit to a monthly commitment, you can also help out by going to coffee.com/gmanfromheck, and you can buy me a virtual cup of coffee or 4. That's ko-fi.com/gmanfromheck. I don't remember if I did all that at the beginning. I mean, I think I might have messed up the beginning, but whatever. So that is going to be it for this week. What is going to be next week? I think the movie feature will be Marty Supreme. I do want to see that movie. I think it's called Nothing But Trouble. I forget what it's called. It's a Korean movie The only problem is it's not playing in my area, and I'm not going to drive into the city just to see a movie. So I do really want to see it. It's got the dude from Squid Games, and it's annoying because my theater showed the trailer. I saw the trailer twice, two different movies, and it's like you're showing the trailer and you're not even playing the movie. It's like okay, maybe other theaters in your chain are going to show it, but come on, man, don't tease me like that. So I do really want to see that movie. But I'll probably there's a Hugh Grant and Kate Hudson, the Neil Young movie, like the couple who were like he was like Neil Young, like the cover band type of thing, impersonator or whatever. I saw the two of them on Graham Norton, and it looks like it could be good. I don't know. I can't remember if it's playing in my area. I might see Marty Supreme. So Timothy Chalamet. I have no idea what this movie is about. I do like him. I think he's a great actor, so it's got to be good. But I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. So that it might be that. And then as far as TV stuff, so we'll have probably one episode of Stranger Things. We'll have, and maybe it's going to be, no, okay, take it back. One episode of Stranger Things. We'll have the season finale of Pluribus, and then maybe 2 episodes of Fallout. We'll see how this week goes. I still have to do report cards, for school. So even though I am off, this week is going to zip by and then I'm back to work. So hopefully you get some time off. Hopefully if you do anything for New Year's Eve, hopefully you'll be safe, you'll be happy, you'll be with friends. But again, thank you from the bottom of my heart for helping me through another year. I know it's not. I noticed the show started in August, but if we look at the calendar year, we made it through another calendar year. So thank you for your support. Thank you for listening. It means a lot. I know not everyone can financially support the show, but if you have, or if you can, if you have in the past, thank you so much. But yeah, the main thing is, just keep listening. And as long as you're listening, I'll keep doing the show. So I hope you have a great time. Hope you had a great year. I hope you have an amazing 2026. We're all in this together, so let's just be kind and helpful to each other. Make sure you remember, be good to each other.